Good evening, everyone. Hello. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the West Orange Board of Education meeting. Mr. Calavano, roll call.
Roll call. Mr. Charles?
Present.
Mrs. Lab?
Present.
Mrs. Mordecai?
Present.
Mr. Robertson? Mr. Schwartzbaum? Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Notice of meeting. Please take notice that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided for in the following manner. That a written notice was sent from the Office of the Secretary of the Board at 4 p.m. on January 6, 2017. That said notice was sent by regular mail to the West Orange Township Clerk and the editors of the West Orange Chronicle and the Star Ledger. That said notice is posted in the lobby of the Administration Building of the Board of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Calavano. May I have a motion for the closed and public meeting minutes of February 13th, 15th, and 23rd?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Calavano?
All in favor?
Aye.
I
Any
will
opposed?
abstain, as I wasn't here.
Which one?
On all three, wasn't here.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Rutsky, Superintendent report.
Thank you, Ms. Mordecai. It is my pleasure tonight. We have a couple of recognitions. We're going to start off with our Redwood Elementary School. I know we have our students performing for us tonight. Mr. Arcurio, do you have a microphone in your hand? I'd like to turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I'm Bruce Arcurio. I'm the principal of Redwood Elementary School. Behind me is the Redwood Honor Band. They are led by Miss Andrea Ramel. These boys and girls are fifth graders who come to school once a week early before school starts, and they practice with Ms. Ramel and make beautiful music. So they are going to play a song entitled Galactic Episode for you.
Just want to thank all the students for coming and performing for us tonight. Obviously, when the concert comes around, we'll get over to see the concert as well. We know that it's late and that there's an early school day tomorrow morning, so please feel free to go ahead and pack up your instruments. And if the parents want to go ahead and go with the students, you're welcome to go. Obviously, you're welcome to stay as well. We're going to take just a couple minutes, and then we're going to recognize our cheerleaders next. Thank you, Redwood. At this time, we are going to recognize the accomplishments of this year's cheerleaders. I'm just going to take a moment and identify why they were so successful. Starting off, SEC Liberty Division winner, Grand Stunting champions, UCA High School Nationals, 3rd place, large non-tumble game day, 7th place, medium non-tumble varsity, NJCDCA, which stands for New Jersey Chair Dance Coaches Association, small non-tumble state champions, UCA regional champions, JV non-tumble varsity, medium non-tumble, and non-tumble game day, UCA Garden State champions, JV non-tumble varsity, medium non-tumble, non-tumble game day. Can we just have a round of applause for the cheerleaders, please? I just want to invite up our head coach, Olivia Del Spina, to come up to the podium on my left. I'd like to invite Mr. Moore, Mr. Bly, Miss Mordecai up to the table over here where the plaques are. Ms. Del Spina, we're just going to obviously say what you'd like to, and then we'll have them come up one at a time and recognize. Ladies, when you come up, we want to make sure you stay up front so we can get pictures. So when you come up, you're going to come to the table and get your plaque, and then stay right here in the middle in front of the board so we can do a picture.
All right, the girls had a great season, and I just want to congratulate everyone. Thank our administration, thank my assistant coaches. It's been a really successful first year. So ladies, when your name is called, please come up and get your plaque. Amanda Scalora, Brianna Griffin, Danielle Arabito, Emma Scalora, Erica Odame, Johanna Miranda, Cassandra Castillo, Casey Alfani, Madigan Coleman, Neftali Celestine, Olivianne Iriarte, Onita Adoku, Skylar Fleischer, Star Lawson, Veronica Cardona, Viviana Cardona, Jada Close, Rachel Scott, Sarah Gold, Naisha Woolridge, Linnea Nichols, Grace Loma,
Absolutely. And just like the group from Redwood, you absolutely are welcome to stay. You certainly don't have to. We're going to give you a couple minutes if you'd like to go ahead and leave. We'll just take another minute break here until everybody gets settled in. Move on. Next on the list is I want to just update. The end of last week, I received a phone call from EIRC, who is the group that we're going to provide the special ed audit. I had learned that as of March 31st, they are closing their doors. We were shocked by this. EIRC is a huge educational institute for school districts around the state. They service hundreds and hundreds of districts that utilize them for multiple reasons. And when they called, I was really taken aback by what they were saying, and didn't really get an explanation. Not sure exactly why they're closing their doors. I've heard different things, but certainly won't put anything out there that's not factual. So the situation we have is that I'm going to be reaching out to our other groups that we had as far as the finalists and talking to them as far as seeing their availability. We had one group that we really liked, BGK&K. They were a little more money than EIRC, but we felt that EIRC was comparable, and that's why we went with them. But I'm going to reach out to them, and I will come back to you to see what kind of cost that's going to be. Now, I can tell you that the quality of their work is exceptional, and that document that I provided, it kind of shows that they do a very thorough and comprehensive special ed audit. Across the state and places they have done audits, Mr. Mendez and I have spoken to many school district leaders and asked them about the work product, and it was glowing from this group of BGK&K. So I'll be coming back to you with that. Obviously, I'm disappointed because it's delaying the audit, but we will still get the audit done this school year so we can determine what we're doing well and what we need to improve. Next, I'd like to invite the board to go ahead and join the audience. We're going to have a discussion about the budget. What I'm going to do, and this truly is a discussion, it is not a presentation, that will take place on Wednesday. This is where I'm going to be providing some different options for you to consider. So if we can just go ahead and join the group. It's okay. It's fine. It's better. Yep. Okay, to kind of set the table here on where we are with the preliminary budget. Every year we have a preliminary budget. We have a presentation. This year it will be 2 days from now, Wednesday night at Liberty at 8 o'clock in the auditorium. Again, this is a discussion between the board members and options that I'm going to be presenting to all of the board members. But one of the things that's different this year is that the health benefits are usually, that final number is usually not in until the middle to third week of April, right before we have to do the final budget. Because we're trying to expedite the negotiation process with WOEA, our broker and Horizon got us numbers much earlier this year to help us with that process. When we got the numbers back, and during that process, we went out and what's called shop the health benefits, meaning that we went to different providers to see if we could get a lower rate than what Horizon was providing. And the answer was they did not. Only one was able to handle the size of the district, and they came in higher than what Horizon did. So as of right now, Horizon's at a 9.8 increase. And when you combine that with the increase of our out-of-district special ed cost, we are starting off the budget process with those two items being $2.5 million, which is exactly 2% of the cap that we're allowed to raise. As you can imagine, that makes things very difficult when you're trying to do other things within the district. And we talk about this every year, and we've talked about this with legislators recently over at Liberty Middle School, in that they were talking about the funding formula. And there were some comments made from lots of different people from different districts about the funding formula is one thing, but that's not really what the biggest issue is with the budget. It's really that we haven't had an increase in state aid in several years, and that the health cost, the health benefit cost, and the special ed out-of-district costs continue to rise every single year. And when you have a 2% budget that you can increase, there's not a lot of movement for things that you want to do outside of that 2%. So we have some serious challenges for this year's budget, and I mean serious challenges. And I'm going to go through some numbers, and I have some slides here for everybody to kind of see what it is. But we have to realize that this is one of the worst conversations that we're going to be having because the budget is so difficult right now. And what I want everybody to realize is that in the past, we've had some breakage from our health benefits when we've gone to the final budget that has allowed us to bring back some of those initial positions that were being taken out of the budget and out of the district during the preliminary budget. This year we don't have that option because we already have our bottom number. So what we're looking at are real numbers that we're trying to work through to decide how are we respectful to our taxpayers, but also making sure that our district continues to excel. So let me start with a couple of things. We have the preliminary budget presentation to the community on Wednesday night. That's at Liberty. And then we have to submit it to the county the next day. We have to have a balanced budget for that to happen. They have until April 24th to notify Mr. Calavano, our business administrator, who's standing on the other side of the room. And then we have our final presentation and our adoption on May 1st. Again, that will be at Liberty Middle School. I've set this up into 3 options. Now, so everybody understands where we are with the options. The first option is that the tax levy has to increase by 2%, and we have to use banked cap. And I'll have Mr. Calavano review that in just a moment of what bank cap is. But if you can see the bottom where it's in red, we must cut $3,084,000 to balance the budget. That's a real number. That's not a number that we're saying, okay, we can come back on May 1st and we're going to have another $2 million. That is the real number right now, and that number's not going to change. Mr. Calavano, you want to talk a minute about how bank cap works?
Well, let's start with the 2%. The 2% is not on top of your budget. It's 2% increase on your tax levy. So for our district, our tax levy is approximately $128 million. So that means we can raise our budget by $2.5 million. The other factor that's also hitting us this year is each year we usually take $2.1 million out of our surplus. So we end the year, any funds that are left over in that school year gets put into surplus. And you want to have some surplus at the end of the day. So we can carry up to $3 million each year. This past year, we ended $1.8 million. So therefore, I don't have the $2.1 million to put into the budget. I don't feel comfortable about putting the whole 1.8. So we're going to take half of it and put $900,000. So we're already 1.2 short on the revenue side. So not only do we have an issue with the appropriations being over, but we also have a revenue issue. Bank cap. So we have that 2% that we can go up each year. If you don't go up to that 2%, the difference can be put in a bank, meaning that you can use that in the next 3 years. If you don't use it in the next 3 years, you actually lose that. And that's not money on the table. That's just the ability to increase your tax levy above the 2%. So back in 13-14, We did not go to cap. We had 841,968 under cap. So you're allowed to carry that for 3 years. We actually lost that last year, so that's off the table now. 14-15, we went right up to 2%, so we had no bank cap. 15-16, that's the year I believe we were somewhere around 1%. So we left $1.3 million as bank cap because we didn't go for the whole 2%. That will expire in the 18-19 school year. So we have the ability to use that this coming school year. Last year, we had $823,000 that we were able to bank. And now we can also use that this year because that will expire in 2019 and 20. So if you look at the total, we actually have $2.1,085,000 that we can actually use this year inclusive of the 2%. So we can actually go above the 2%.
Okay, now, again, one of the things you're going to start seeing here is that between option 1, option 2, and option 3, we're at 2% with the bank cap in option 1, which would have the least amount of cuts compared to option 2 and option 3. So when we start off, and I'll just kind of go through the slide, the top says reduction needed to balance the 2017-18 budget. Option 1, and it repeats what I said, tax levy increase of 2% plus the bank cap requires the following to be eliminated: 2 supervisors, 2 assistant principals, 23 full-time and 4 part-time paraprofessionals. Now let me stop there for a minute. This is based on projections, current projections for September 1 or July 1 with the extended school year. This could change very quickly if students are classified that are currently not classified, or students move in who are classified that require a 1-to-1, 2-to-1, 3-to-1 paraprofessional. So again, understand that this number could change as far as the paraprofessionals. 11 teachers, 7 lunch aides, 3 administrative assistants, 1 clerical aide, 1 library media specialist, 1 technology technician, 1 school nurse, and we have been trying to replenish our fleet of buses, and we had originally budgeted for 5 leased buses. Those 5 will come out. That's option 1. The total number of positions that will be cut in option 1 are 56. We move to option 2. Again, this is a little bit different because it's still going 2% tax levy, but there is no bank cap included in option 2. You'll notice the number that we need to get to balance the budget is $5.2 million. This slide looks a little bit different in that it says 7 supervisors. Now you'll notice in parentheses it's 2 from option 1 and 5 from option 2. So we're combining. You have to realize that everything for option 2 also includes all of the cuts from option 1. 4 assistant principals, 2 from option 1, 2 from option 2. The paraprofessionals do not change. There's still 23 full-time, 4 part-time. The 11 teachers have not changed. That's the same from option 1. 7 lunch aides do not change. 4 administrative assistants, that does. 3 from option 1, 1 from option 2. 1 clerical aide, that's still from option 1. 9 library media specialists, 1 from option 1, 8 from option 2. Technology technician, that's from option 1. School nurses from option 1. The leased buses are from option 1. Student assistance counselor, this is specific to option 2. 2 registration officers. Middle school athletic program and the coaches associated. There's 24 coaches. 8 assistant coaches from the high school. And 1 testing coordinator. Technology for our K2. We were planning on taking the Chromebooks from our 7th and 8th grade students, which are 3 years old, and moving them down and having a cart for every classroom in in 1 and 2. Then we were going to purchase a tablet Chromebook, a touch tablet, to get kids in kindergarten used to using the device, and then it turns into a Chromebook and preparing them for grade 1. Those devices would be cut. The AVID program here in the high school. Summer Bridge program when you move from 5th grade to 6th grade. The Summer Step Up program, again, 8th grade to 9th grade. And the SAT boot camp. All of those cuts would be part of option 2, including option 1, which option 2 has 48 separate cuts. Option 1 has 54. Sorry, 56 and 48. Option 3. This is if there's an increase of 1.5%. You'll notice that we're working our way down from 2% plus bank cap to 2%, and now we're at 1.5%. We have a deficit of $5.9 million for option 3. Remember, this includes everything from option 1 and 2, so all the cuts we talked about with option 1 and 2 would be included, as well as some additional ones for 3. And I'll go through them again. The 7 supervisors we talked about, the 4 assistant principals, the 23 paraprofessionals, the 11 teachers, the 7 lunch aides, the 4 administrative assistants, 1 clerical aide, 9 library media specialists, 1 technology technician, the school nurse, the buses, the student assistance counselor, the 2 registration officers, the middle school athletic program and coaches, the 8 assistant coaches at the high school, testing coordinator, the technology for K2, the AVID program, the Summer Bridge program, Step Up program, SAT boot camp. Here's what's new for option 3, 7 elementary school counselors, after school late busing for grades 6 through 12, field trips K-12, freshman athletic program, and several non-public bus routes would be condensed. Extracurricular activities and clubs. This slide is specific and different because it could be towards 1 or all 3 levels. So it could be designed just for elementary and middle, or elementary, middle, and high school, or any of those individually. The extracurricular activities and clubs, the technology, hardware, and software, the world language offerings, and the music and art offerings. Those are the 3 options that we have, and none of them are great. Now we have some additions that we have to put into the budget based on specific needs. Kindergarten teacher at Redwood, a STEM teacher for Roosevelt and Edison, so we are starting to prepare kids for high school in very exciting and wonderful opportunities for them. A biology teacher here in the high school. The enrollment's gone up. We're using teachers to cover those periods. We need to have an additional biology teacher. We have an opportunity to have a preschool program outside of Kelly. It is currently in Kelly Elementary School. We have an opportunity, and we have been researching a location in West Orange that was built specifically for a preschool program. It is a beautiful facility that is 2 years old that can house exactly what we're looking to house with our preschool. It gives us a couple of options. Number 1, we are completely overcrowded at Kelly as well as some of the other elementary schools. We can get some of our students out of substandard rooms that they're currently in right now. We can run programs that allow for the K-5 continuum so they don't need to leave a school and go to a different location for their grades 3 through 5 in the same program. We can run those programs at Kelly because we would have the room to do that. We would also be able to offer something that the district desperately needs, and that would be a preschool program for Hazel Elementary School and Washington Elementary School. The cost to do the preschool facility is approximately $225,000. And in researching facilities in the last couple of years to try and alleviate some of the overcrowding in the elementary schools, we are in the ballpark of a couple $1 million when we were looking at facilities in West Orange. So we're looking at a very nice partnership at a very affordable cost for brand new classrooms. And when I say classrooms, they also have the needed rooms for related services, special, we would need to have a nurse involved, a custodian involved, administrative assistant involved, and obviously a supervisor or principal who would need to be there to take care of our little ones. So these are all additions, and the only additions to the budget. Now, if we're looking at the impact to the average homeowner, 2% plus the bank cap, including the debt service levy, is $271.43. If we just did the 2% increase with the debt service levy, we're looking at $203.81, and then the 1.5 with the debt service levy is $183.52. That's why I indicated that tonight is by far the worst presentation that needs to be done because of the challenges of this budget. We're talking about personnel layoffs, we're talking about programs, and an overall challenge to keep the district where it is. This is just a reminder that Wednesday night in Liberty, we have the actual preliminary discussion presentation. I'll be doing the presentation, which will be different than this. The purpose of tonight is the board can come back up and we can start discussing what I presented to them as far as the options. But I just want to make it clear, as a superintendent, I'm highly recommending, strongly recommending that we use option 1. And while there are reductions and cuts to option 1, we're going to do everything we can possibly do to minimize the important areas of not letting it get to the student in the classroom. And that's very hard when you're talking about the amount of money that we need to cut, not only in option 1, but all 3 options. So that really is the goal. But again, I strongly recommend option 1 to the board. That is absolutely my recommendation. And at this point, I let the board members come back up. We're going to go into discussion about this. And then for the public, obviously, it's just a normal discussion with the board members. At the end of the meeting, you're welcome to have any kind of conversation you want to have. Board members, come on back up, please.
Thank you, Mr. Rutsky, for that presentation, and thank you to the administration for all your hard work on this. I know when we first started talking about the budget last week, the board asked you to go and find 3 options instead of just automatically going to the 2% cap and just looking at that option only. It's a real eye-opener, just, going through all the options and seeing the cuts. I'm going to open up to my colleagues. I believe Mr. Charles has a question.
First, I just want to recap the options and basically make sure my numbers are correct. So, option 1 is for 56 reduction of staff. Option 2 is in total, what the combination is 104, and option 3 is 111 staff being cut, plus the programs, plus the sports, and pretty much anything that makes our district special, I guess, right?
That is correct.
Okay, that's not good. Number 1. I just have some specific. The 9.8 that you spoke about Horizons, how does that stack up as far as the national number or the state number as far as the increase?
Well, it's hard to compare it to anybody else because the way that the brokers and health benefits like Horizon work is they look at the experience rating month by month, and when they have to make a determination, when the experience rating is not positive, the rates go up more. So a district that has a lower experience rating gets lower numbers. Right now, we're not in a good place with our experience rating, so that's why each year we're in a increase of 8 to 12%.
Okay. One more specific thing and one general question. On option 3, it calls for several of the non-public bus routes, I guess, are being eliminated or would be eliminated. So then how would those kids get to school?
Well, they would still get to school. We would just minimize or reduce some of the stops. They might be on the bus a little longer.
Right.
So it's not that they're going to be eliminated. We would be looking at trying to reduce the number of routes. But some may be, a couple may be eliminated, but overall they're going to be less stops and more kids at a stop.
Right. The travel time is going to be longer, I guess, the pickup
Travel time would
is gonna
definitely be longer.
Okay.
Mr. Charles, our obligation is to provide transportation for non-public. If we can get it for $884 per pupil, and if we can't get it for $884 per pupil, then we actually pay the parent $884. So we can't exceed that $884.
Okay. And the last thing I have, Madam President, is I think 2 years ago we adopted the zero-based budgeting. Can you speak a little bit about that for the public who really don't know too much about that?
So instead of just, what most districts or some districts will do is each year they'll request, give me your budget. And what they'll do is they'll just give you the same paper from last year and just change quantities, or sometimes they won't even change the year. You'll see the same year on it. Here we asked everyone to go into your closet, see what your supplies are. We don't want you to give us what you gave us last year. We don't want you to look at your purchase orders that you purchased during the school year. We want you to give us the needs that you actually need you think you're going to need for the upcoming school year.
Okay. That's all I have for now.
Okay. Mr. Schwartzbaum?
Just wanted to thank John for putting together the numbers, as well as Jeff. But in looking at the options, I think there are many more options that can be looked at. The first thing, that cutting 104 people is really not acceptable. That in looking at the budget as presented, there are areas that can be saved that do not involve personnel, and that we need to go to, whether it be supplies and other things, to go to a zero-base budget, because that doesn't affect personnel. And within the budget, the supplies are approximately $700,000 of an increase, so that there are areas. The other areas that we need to really be cognizant of the fact is health benefits. There is an option. Right now we've got an increase of approximately $1.7 million. There are alternatives. And those alternatives where everyone has to compromise a little, but there's an opportunity to reduce costs by $1.3 million that our broker has put forth. There's, in addition, $850,000 that is given for personnel who do not take health benefits. So those are savings that can be accrued that would really would reduce the number of people that we have to lay off. I would also say that Ms. Zaretsky, you pointed out regarding just the physical cost of the new facility for the preschool's $250, but when you add in the principal, the nurse, the custodian, that comes out to be $500,000. We really need to look back and analyze, while there may be an opportunity to go into a school, and it's something we need, but we're also dealing with people's livelihoods, so there are trade-offs, and we need to look at them. And from my perspective, if I had to make a trade-off of a building versus an employee, I think I would say that let's not do the building, and we'll see what happens, and something may come up. I'm sure something will come up. We have to be cognizant of the taxpayers, that transferring the burden, 100% of the burden, is not acceptable. If we take the 2% plus the bank cap, it's a 4% increase. Most households are stretched. You can't afford. No one's walking home with 4% increases. Most people are just getting 1-2% increases. So we can't in all consciousness just sit here and say, well, yes, we want everything, but like everything else in life, there are trade-offs. And sometimes if we have to trade supplies for personnel, for teachers, well, that's a trade-off. We all make it. And if we have to reuse what we used last year, okay, so we won't have that. But that doesn't impact someone. I would propose that if we take all these pieces, that we can go to a 1% increase in the tax base. And I want to point out one thing that has always irked me. We spent $11 million on an energy savings program. $11 million, which was supposed to accrue $800,000 a year in savings, and in addition, we conducted a reverse auction just because of a reduction in energy costs, which is $150,000. So we should have close to $1 million in savings, and when we look at the budget, there's only close to $190,000. So we, in essence, took $11 million, and while it's very nice to have vending machines that shut off when people leave, but the cost of the vending machines, there was no payback. And now we're really paying the price for spending really not being fiscally responsible. So I would come back and say that we need to have an option 4 and an option 5, which doesn't only address cutting personnel, but we have to look at some of the supplies and the programs and work through it.
Mr. Robertson?
First of all, for me, the options 2 and 3 are not options at all. I do agree with Mr. Schwartzbaum that there are other options. We should always look at products versus people, and what we can trim further from a supply standpoint, no matter how inconvenient it may be. And having kids in the school, I know if a child is not getting practice on a computer system or something in K through 2, that's going to make it difficult in 3rd, but still, it's better to get rid of supplies or products versus, these are real lives, real people who are already struggling in many cases we're talking about. So, number 1, we need to look at that. What can we trim in terms of supplies, and take a second look? And I'm sorry we don't already have that answer. We've literally been wading through hundreds and hundreds of pages of budget information in a pretty short period of time, but we'll come back with that answer. Number 2, the savings from a healthcare standpoint, we hope to realize, and we hope that in coming to the table for negotiations that we can definitely realize that, because that's actually a hope that's already built into the plan. And has a $1.34 million savings attached to it based on the 1020 plan. Number three, as we look at the new preschool, that's a difficult decision. We don't have it could be a short-term save and not investing in it. But so you know a little background. We began looking at other properties 3 years ago. We looked at, actually longer than that, before I even came on the board. Since I've been on the board, though, we looked at other properties. One property, we've lost 2 properties to privatized, to private companies, private education companies. And we found that buildings of that type in West Orange are actually a hot commodity. So we don't have the demographers' results back yet to understand what the impact of the new home construction is going to have, at what rate we're going to grow. But we have to be careful, and hopefully we'll get those numbers within the near future, because if it turns out that 300 apartments here and 300 single-family homes here and another 100 homes in the valley and another potential 100 homes over another section are going to could in fact swell our school system, then we have to determine, do we take a short-term hit for to meet a long-term need? Because at some point buildings may be needed. We already have Redwood, Washington, and Gregory have long been overcrowded, and all the other elementary schools are busting at the seams. So, it's a very difficult decision. We need to take a hard look at it, because we will need, I believe that we will need more space at some point, and possibly sooner than we realize. But once again, we have to look at people before products or properties, and try not to cut positions, try to cut as few as possible. Next, we just began an effort that we haven't seen fruition from yet, because we just began it. You've heard me talk about fund development, also called private funding before, where we pursue grants, strategic partnerships, and sponsorships. Well, Mr. Rutsky and a team of administrators has begun that process in engaging the New Jersey School Board Association and the grant office in pursuing corporate grants, foundation grants, as well as government. Because government, we understand, federal government grants are based upon our new president's plan, they will not only decrease but may go away. From a state standpoint, we know that state funding has been flat or low for several years, and there's no real indication that's going to change, because all the school systems are continually trying to divide up the same pie. Now the prospects of what we could potentially raise long-term are great. There are school systems of our size that have been able to raise millions. Will we do that year one? No, seriously doubtful. We're just coming out the blocks. We just started the effort. But I do believe it's something we need to continue to invest in order to bring in new streams of revenue, because once again, the pie that we're all trying to slice up is not going to get bigger, but our needs will continue to grow. So looking back at where to cut supplies and reevaluating the short-term and long-term impact of the preschool expansion and that $500,000 investment, looking at how we can work together in negotiations and be able to realize, hopefully, the healthcare savings and fund development. We have over 100 corporations either based in New Jersey or major offices here, and foundations that fund New Jersey schools, New York schools, like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, et cetera, where we need to develop new streams of revenue. All these things we need to look at, but I can tell you right now that I would hope that we're focused only on option one, and option one modified with the savings that we can gain from reductions in supplies. And last, we do have to be sensitive to our taxpayers, and I'm a taxpayer. The $271.43, it's going to come out to just under $23 a month. Now, if you're at a fixed income, every little bit is going to make a difference. If you are on a low income already, every little bit's going to make a difference. So we have to balance that as well. But once again, when we look at the number of lives that are being impacted, from 56 to 111 potentially, I would personally rather take that hit as a taxpayer than the impact it's going to have, not only on these lives, but the lives that then affect our children. Teachers and administrators are our product. My children are educated by them, by our teachers. And when I look at, or even the role of a SAC counselor, at a time when it's cover news on Time magazine that you have anxiety and depression are at record highs among teens. Suicides, a real risk. I don't want to get rid of SAC counselors. We're looking at all these, the people, the talents, the skills that are affecting the lives of our children, my children, your children, that are educating them, that are enriching them, that are protecting them. And these are not easy decisions, but we need to minimize the impact on our people. And there's no other option. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robertson. I just wanted to make a comment. We've been kicking the can down the road about preschool and being overcrowded for quite some time. And we have 6 trailers for over 10 years in some schools, 15 years in another school. I don't know if we can continue to kick that can down the road. And as Mr. Schwartzbaum outlined, it's about $500,000, $225 for the space and $250 for the personnel. So I'm not sure if we can continue to do that. Mr. Calavano, if you can confirm, I don't know if you have the numbers with you or if you'll have them on Wednesday, but as far as the electric and gas and the energy savings program, I vaguely remember you saying we spent $2.2 million in 2015, 2016, and we saved $700,000 the following year, spending 1.5 and then 1.2.
No, I didn't say we saved.
No, we spent.
We did spend 2.2, 15, 16.
And then 1.5?
We budgeted 1.5 for the current year, which I believe we're going to be short.
Okay.
And right now, for next year, we have 1.2 budgeted.
Okay. So we have budgeted 1.5, so in effect, we could probably save 700,000, 1.5 from 2.2.
No.
No, what are you saying?
No, I don't think we can look at that
What
at
are you
all.
saying? Okay.
We're short this year, so that means
Okay.
I think the 1.2 is probably a good number.
One
But
point.
I'm going to look at that again.
1.2 is a good number. Okay. And also what's not in here is, and I assume you'll have it for Wednesday, Mr. Rutsky, is buildings and grounds. They usually come out with a really long wish list with pictures of boilers and roofs and whatnot. We'll have that on Wednesday?
We will, but that list is obviously much smaller.
Yes.
We're taking care of the essential repairs.
Okay. Okay, this is, we have a very tough decision to make every year, and this year in particular, we're still working on the teacher's contract, and that's long-term. Our budget is every single year. And when you look at these 3 options that we're presented with, option 1, we cut 56 positions, option 2, 104, option 3, 111 positions. It's tough, but we have to find the balance between not cutting directly from the classroom and the impact on the taxpayers. So I agree with Mr. Schwartzbaum. We should be looking to see if there's some supply lines that we can cut, but I don't think any of those supply lines are going to total $3 million. That's all I have for now. Mrs. Lab?
Thank you. Mr. Rutsky, first, a couple of my colleagues mentioned the issue of supplies. I just want to clear up what supplies actually are. We're not talking about pens and paper clips. We're talking about programs. Can you explain a little bit what that $700,000 increase reflects?
If we're looking like supplies in general and throughout the budget, I just looked at three major categories, one being security. We have $182,000 budgeted for security. We have about $425,000 budgeted for the new science program. And we have about $154,000 for maintenance.
I'm sorry, how much for maintenance?
$154,000. And if you recall, we would have a sufficient amount each year to do construction projects from contractors. We only have $120,000 that we budgeted for major construction. The rest of the work's going to be done in-house with our men.
Okay, so this increase of $700,000 that Mr. Schwartzbaum reflected is because of those items, not because we're just buying more pens and papers and stuff. The new science program that you referenced, this is required by the DOE. Can you speak?
It aligns with the requirement of the next generation science standards.
Okay.
So we had to put the program in place for middle school students, 6 through 12, on high school, and next year it has to be in place for the elementary school. We haven't really had a good science program in a very long time, so this is forcing our hand to make sure that we have it in place and we know how important science is.
Okay. Just off the cuff, obviously, options 2 and 3 are horrific and will decimate the district. I cannot support either one of them. I will support, option 1, and it's just, it's devastating what happens here. I had a problem when I looked at these numbers, and I wanted to know, last year when we went up 2%, it was $124 to the taxpayer. This year, if we go up 2%, it's over $200 to the taxpayer. So, of course, I was like, how did that happen? And it turns out we had multiple commercial rateable appeals that happened this year, which drove that number up. Additionally, the homes have a greater assessment value, and that's what raised it, because I couldn't for the life of me figure out what was $124 last year is now $200 this year. Extraordinary numbers coming out of the township, and I'm sure we'll get greater detail on that Wednesday night when we have our presentation. That aside, just referencing the preschool program, we're required to have 5-year plans for our facilities, and as my colleagues indicated, we have trailers that are now on waivers for well over a decade, if not 15 years, I think, over at Redwood. And if you've seen these trailers, they're deplorable. But that aside, looking at our numbers right now that we have in the elementary schools, we are popping. We have no room. It makes sense for the long term to get the preschool classes out of Kelly so we can have a gradual shift where we have 600 kids at Redwood, and we have kids all over the place. And we all know that we're parents in the district. We understand what's going on here. So as I think Mr. Robertson or Ms. Mordecai mentioned, we've been looking at spaces now at least since 2011. We looked at the community house. We looked at St. Joseph's. We looked at Suburban Hills. For each one of those, they didn't work for various reasons. Right now, the property that we're looking at is here in West Orange. It's quite affordable. And again, when we look at some of those cuts, whether it's a nurse or administrative assistant, you see that they're tacked on as additions. But still in all, these numbers are horrifying. The plans are horrifying, but we have to come to some consensus, at least with the preliminary budget. We do have the opportunity to look back after we get the numbers into the county, to look back and see where we could amend and where we can adjust, whether it's finagling a little bit here, a little bit there. But again, when you have $6 million that you got to find, it's like I'm looking at Megan, I see Paul here tonight. This is going back to 2010 when we lost $6 million literally overnight because of the governor, and this district bled, and we're just getting back to where we should be. So looking at the possibility of cutting some of these programs, I mean, forget about staff for a second. That's a whole nother horror show, because, I mean, when we had these cuts, we were hysterical cutting these people. But when I look now at the AVID program, what that brings to our students, the SAC officer This is how we function. The testing coordinator, my God, I mean, I don't know if you know what this testing coordinator does. Maybe Mr. Rutsky could expand a little bit, but these are things that you need in a district. The SAT boot camp, the results of this are so phenomenal that our kids are getting into the colleges that they didn't get before because they have the prep now to excel on a test. So again, I won't even consider option 2. Forget about option 3. That's not working for me. And again, as a taxpayer, I pay an enormous amount of taxes, and we all do, but I needed that answer from the township. What was $125 now? How the heck did that happen to come to be $200? But I will support this, and again, we have to get a preliminary in, and then we do have the opportunity to move stuff around. Maybe we can find savings. Hopefully, you know, as Mr. Schwartzbaum mentioned, there's an opportunity to save a nice chunk of change with the health benefits if it works out with our unions and we can move that forward. But again, we can't bank on that right now until that happens. But anyway, I'm sorry?
We're still short, though.
Yeah,
Even with that, we're still short.
We're short a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
Yeah.
And, you know, when we talk about cutting the facilities budget, I mean, regardless of everything else, we have to maintain our houses. We have buildings over 100 years old, and things happen. You know, we're all homeowners. Your roof needs fixing, your air conditioning, this, that, the other thing. You know, we just had snow the other day. You know, you've got to maintain your house. You have to maintain your facilities. So the budget is so complex. It's just, it's programs, it's busing, it's the transportation, it's the health benefits, it's the staffing, it's the support for the students, it's the supplies for the students. It's huge.
Yeah.
So I know we're going to open it up to the public very shortly, and I would really love to hear your feedback on what you have to say about these proposals, because we're listening to you. You know, this is our district, these are our kids, and we certainly, I mean, if somebody here has a better idea than what we have, I see Megan going like this. Okay, I mean, I want to hear it. So I think I'll stop right now, and Sandy, if you want to perhaps open it up.
Yes,
Okay.
before we open it up, do you have any comments, Mr. Rutsky or Mr.
I want
Catalano?
to just make a couple things. Now, we've been working on the budget for several months, and when we knew we were going to be this far over to a balanced budget, Mr. Mendez and the supervisors and the principals went back and cut a great deal of money out of their supply lines, out of every single line that they are in charge of. So I want to be really clear that this isn't something, as Mr. Calavone indicated, that certain districts just say, this is what we had last year, and we go from there. They did a phenomenal job. The principals and the supervisors, Mr. Mendez, really working very hard to understand that we know staff is the most important thing. Ms. Mordecai, you made a comment about you can't get $3 million out of supplies. You are correct. And so you try to balance that and figure out. Now, that doesn't mean that tonight when we make a decision about what option and we go back tomorrow and start working on this again, that we're not going to dig in to the supply lines. We are. But again, don't confuse the supply line of $700,000 that this is paper and pencil. This is the next gen standard program. This is computers. There are lots of things that are in there. The Cisco lab, the computers are 8 years old. And you can't have the teachers and students functioning on 8-year-old computers for a Cisco program. But that's one example of many that are in there. So when you say supplies, I don't want you to be misled that what a supply really is. It's the way that the budget program is set up, and it has to be set up that way. A couple of other things that we need to talk about: the preschool program. And we've been wrestling with this, and I've said this to Mr. Mendez and Mr. Walls and everybody who've been working on this, that I am very torn by this, because I never want to put that kind of thing in front of a staff member. The thing we need to remember is, if you remember last year when we were talking about St. Joe's, that was a minimum of $2 million just to upgrade the facility. Now remember, private schools don't have the same requirements that public schools do. So when you start talking about all the emergency personnel, the fire alarms, the sprinklers, the doors, all of those kinds of things have to be updated. and that's money to us. They're not going to say, we'll fix it and you use it. That's part of what you do as far as the arrangement. So to go into a facility for $225,000, that is perfect. Everything is up to code. We've had the engineer there. He has verified that. All we're waiting on is the county to come in and do their part of it. And we keep talking about this overcrowding. We've got an opportunity to do this in a very inexpensive way, and it's the start. It's by no means the end. No. It's just the start. So I don't want anybody to think that that's more important than a staff member, because some of those cuts included a nurse, an administrative assistant. Those individuals will be moved down there. They're on that list because we need to add them. They're not currently in the facility for preschool. Okay, but so there will be some adjustment to that, and that part is vitally important. So there's a lot of pieces that you mentioned that at the end of the day, we realize staffing is the most important part of this, but this is a lot of money to get down. And if we don't realize that over the last 5 years, the least expensive increase we've had for health benefits is just over 8%. All right, and we're up between 8 and 12 every single year. So when everybody has to realize that this isn't going away, that health benefits are going to be a challenge every year, and then you throw in the other costly issues, and you have a 2% increase or a 2% cap that you're allowed to go up to. This makes this process very challenging. So it's a give and take. It's very hard, but for all the board members, again, once we make a decision on the option, and we start preparing for Wednesday night, then we'll dig into some other areas. We'll look at supplies. We'll go back and look at everything that we have there and see what else we can cut. And again, if we can save a staff member or two, by all means, that'll certainly be the direction. And that may look a little different Wednesday night based on the next 2 days' work. And then lastly, remember this is the preliminary. And you know, we have until May 1st to do some different things. And while I indicated we're not going to have any breakage on health benefits because we've got the final number, we certainly can look at some different things and listen to some different ideas about a way to maybe attack this differently.
Just one question,
Thank you, Mr. Rutsky.
if I may.
Sure.
Mr. Rutsky, I'd mentioned earlier the effort that you and the administrators have kicked off in conjunction with the grant office on fund development. Could you talk a little bit about that? Because even long-term, possibly short-term, but definitely long-term, you know, looking at our next-gen science program, the engineering curricula, the code curricula, and those things that some of which we've launched at Edison, and you already had plans to expand, those may be things that we can get underwritten or through strategic partnerships, correct?
Absolutely, and the experts who are the grant writers have provided a database for us, and we've been looking at that database specifically in 3 major areas. The most recent one is the preschool, and Mr. Mendez, again, is very familiar with this. This was part of her responsibilities in another district, and she has reached out to them, and we are rolling now with possibilities of money for preschools, looking at there's different variables when it comes to what can be funded, what cannot be funded. Mm-hmm. But we're tapping into those resources to see what we can do to offset some of those costs. Again, the problem is that it takes time, and May 1st we have an issue. So yep. With that, but looking at STEM in particular, there's grant money out there for STEM and lots of things that fall under STEM. Mm-hmm. And being that we're really pushing that initiative at the middle school, we have a very fine program at the high school. Mm-hmm. We now, last year, 6th grade, we implemented it. Next year, we're going to phase it into 7 and 8. Mm-hmm. And then we want to push it down to the upper elementaries because that's where it needs to get started. They're doing some good work. I saw St. Cloud did some nice things for Dr. Seuss right around STEM. It was great. And that's what I mean. So having those kinds of programs in place are very helpful. And then the last one we're really focused on is the technology, mm-hmm. Because there's lots of money out there for technology, and we know the importance of keeping our devices updated, and we really want to try to finish off the K2, and you know, that just having those touch tablets at kindergarten and the ability for teachers to have one, you know, have a card at their disposal is really important. people have said to me, do they really need that at the K2? And the answer is yes,
yes.
they do, because I think we all know who have little kids. They're far ahead of where we used to be, and there's so much you can do now, and kids are so interested in it. But the teachers are very good at it as well, about utilizing it appropriately with the curriculum. So the answer is yes, we do. So the third piece of that grant is that technology.
Excellent. Thank you.
Just want to point one thing out also. We have a phenomenal special ed program, but in looking at the numbers, this year we'll spend approximately $24 million on special ed versus 2 years ago it was $20 million. So it's up $4 million. It's great that we're providing services, and we will continue to provide services, but in a budget environment, this is also another area that we've got to, we're budgeting, and as children have IEPs and have services that are needed, we're providing, and you'll see even in the current board minutes, there is over $150,000 in out-of-district placements that were not budgeted. So these are challenges that we have to deal with.
No question, I would concur with that. And again, it's like anything else that a family moves in, you service that family. We're really looking at what the child needs to be successful. But you're right, the cost. And again, this is not a West Orange problem. This is a statewide problem that the costs continue to go up, especially out of district schools where they can increase up to 10%. So a school that's charging $75,000 can go up $7,500 the next year, and we don't have a thing to say about it. We have a really fine program in the district, but there are some of the problems we have is because we can't bring kids back because we're overcrowded.
Yeah.
We don't have the facilities to do that, and hopefully in the next couple of years, that's something that we can put on the radar and bring kids back who are capable of being successful in the district.
Thank you, Mr. Rutsky. Mrs. Lab?
Just a couple of comments. Mr. Rutsky, when you were talking about the preschool, you indicated that students or eventual students from Washington and Hazel would be in attendance. I assume this would be through Title I funding?
It could be, and it may not be. Again, we're looking into a couple of those aspects. The most important thing that we know is success of students starts at the preschool level. And we know for a fact that we have many students coming into kindergarten that haven't had any, and not just in Hazel, Washington, all of our elementary schools. We have students who are coming in that do not have that foundation. And we're hoping that we can begin to have that foundation and expand that so the schools themselves could have their preschools within their own buildings if we get some relief with our overcrowding.
Right. Well, I wasn't really talking about, we all understand the value of that education. I was talking more about the money. Tonight in our agenda, for instance, we're being asked to approve the standard $300 a month for the non-disabled students who are in that program. So would we still have the integrated program where we're receiving tuition-based students in addition to potentially Title I funded students?
We could, yes. And
Okay.
the goal is that we know that the integrated program is the most successful program.
Right.
To have the peer models. So we will be looking at that. The issue is we have been putting 3 or 4 things together, and the most important one is the conversation about the facility. Mm-hmm. And once we know that's done, then we can really determine who needs to go there and what's going to remain at Kelly. And again, one of the major pluses is that we could have 2 of our classes that are at Kelly be there for K through 5. And right now they have to leave and they go back to other schools. And that lack of continuity is a serious problem.
I think any child in the district should be entitled to continuity and stability in their education. When I started past 20 years ago, that was one of the issues because those kids were demographic wild cards, and they were in first grade over here, second grade over there. Oh, we have a room over here for third grade, and these kids were bouncing all over the room, all over the district. I'm sorry. and they deserve that as well. Going back to Mr. Schwartzbaum's discussion about the out-of-district placements, we have usually about 100 kids in out-of-district, and I assume this year is probably about the same. I serve on the New Jersey School Board Association Special Education Committee, and there is a lot of movement right now in Trenton to give accountability regs to those private institutions, because right now it's kind of like the OK Corral, and they could raise the rates, and they do every year. And those rates are paid through public taxpayer dollars. So if we have the accountability regs where it is so finite, where it even is about the weight of the paper that our teachers use, to have millions of dollars go out. I mean, you average about $80,000 perhaps on an out-of-district placement, plus another $30,000 in transportation. Some of the children have an aid, and multiply that by 100, and the increase, again, 10% or each year, that's excluding the electives, the related services. So I appreciate and I support the discussion going on in Trenton right now to cap those schools. They do a phenomenal job, but again, if we as public institution are held to accountability regs, they as recipients of public dollars should be held to the same regulations. We know a couple of years ago, Somerset Hills, it was insanity what was going on over there. But anyway, not to say that's a story for another day, but we still have this discussion tonight, and it just seems like a perfect storm between what happened with the ratables in the town, the 2% cap. This is horrific.
Saturday.
Okay.
You know, I just want to say one more piece about the preschool. You know, I've seen Dr. Polera and the staff over there. It's like they have a school within a school, and it is so challenging, but they make it look so easy because they're so good and they're great with the kids. But it is very hard, and if you've never had the pleasure of being in a preschool class, you definitely should try to just stop in, because it's an interesting day. But it's a fun day to hang out in there. They have a lot of fun. They do great work in there. But I don't want anybody to think that this is like a typical class. It is a challenge. It is very hard. And again, Dr. Polera and the staff over there do a phenomenal job, and they make it look very simple, and it's not. It's definitely not.
This program has grown so much. When my son was in it 22 years ago, there was one classroom at Gregory that had 9 students. Now, 20 some odd years later, we have over 100 kids. You know, it's better diagnostics, it's testing. Certainly we have a reputation of having an excellent program. If you build it, they will come, and they have come. And so we need to provide education, but it's a natural break, because general education preschoolers go to a nursery school someplace, and then they enter kindergarten, so we don't necessarily have to have them in our elementary building, because again, it's a natural break. And if it provides the opportunity for the special education students K through 5 to have the same continuity and continuity that every other student in this district has, we should have that obligation to provide that same to them. I'm good.
Well, and one final point to that, you know, we allow kids, based on parent permission, to stay in a school that's not their home school when they've had to be put into a kindergarten class because their kindergarten classes are full. Why? Because of that simple reason of the continuity. They get comfortable in that K, they get comfortable to school, they know the kids, they know the parents, etc. This is no different at all.
Yes, from time to time, we do get appeals for students who start at Hazel, go to Gregory, go back to Hazel, and they want to stay at Hazel or Gregory, and we just don't have the room. So, yes, I agree. Now I'd like to open up the comments to the public. If you'd like to make a comment about
Wait, Sandy.
Sorry?
I just have to finish my report.
Oh, okay.
I just have
thought we
the
were gonna
HIB
do
report. I'm not going to
comments
do
after
the last piece.
It's 2 seconds.
Okay, all right, 2 seconds. All right.
Any questions on the HIB report?
I have none. Thank you.
Mr. Schwartzbaum or Mr. Robertson?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Just want to point out it's consistent that it's in middle school.
Yeah, Liberty
Yes,
Roosevelt.
yes.
This time.
Yeah, well, I think overall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
middle school's a funky age.
Okay, and I just want to, I'm not going to go into athletic or extracurricular update because of how much time we've spent, but I do want to let everybody know, next board meeting, April 17th, we have the swim team coming, and we also have the girls' basketball. So the girls' swimming and girls' basketball, to recognize them. We had a phenomenal winter season with all of our athletes and great coaching going on, so we'll be recognizing both groups at the next meeting. Good luck to all those spring sports that are starting. They're in practice now.
Thank you. Yes, congratulations to all our fall sports teams, our winter sports teams. Okay, I'd like to open it up to comments from the public on the budget discussion. If you'd like to come up and make a comment, please come to the microphone. There's a 3-minute time frame for each person. If you could please identify yourself and also your address.
Hi, I'm Shannon Gattens. I'm at 73 Burnett Terrace. This is about the budget, but so bear with me. I just feel like with the environment we're in, the budget options presented felt slightly threatening to the teachers, especially when healthcare came up several times, and that's the #1 sticking point in the contract negotiations. We talk about kicking the can. We talk about kicking the can on pre-K, but I think we've been kicking the can on the contract for about 628 days. So that's what I'll say about that. There are actually limited exceptions to the tax levy, including capital expenditures, and it sounds like you talked about some of those, so I think that really needs to be an area of focus. Hopefully in the new options that are presented on Wednesday, you can also, which I think, or whenever the new options are presented, that these can be considered. The cap can also go up if it's voted on. That's not a strict cap. I think that if it's brought to the public and the public votes that they want to increase that I think that's the right of us as the taxpayers to decide on that. I also thought that options 2 and 3 I think are like fluff options, and that we should have come with those options that really would have been more viable. It was sort of a waste of time, if you ask me, because the schools that would suffer most under options 2 and 3 would be the schools who don't have strong PTA funds and funds that could be used for school trips, after school programs, and those are the schools that need those things the most. So I hope option 1 ends up being the last option that is chosen, and that the revised options are more realistic.
Thank you, Mrs. Gattens.
Carol Ann Holland, 71 Lawrence Avenue. I have been a major cheerleader for our schools for as long as I've lived here. I have to tell you, I am so upset tonight. I am more upset than I have ever been. I feel like our spec ed kids are being demonized. They're blamed for our graduation rates. Now they're blamed for our budget problems. I'm sorry. If there were appropriate programs in district, I guarantee you that at least 90% of the parents would like their kids to be in this town. My son commuted an hour each way to middle school because we couldn't educate him in district. I am horrified that you would demonize our spec ed kids in this way. Stop blaming them and give them what they need. And I don't need a response. I'm so angry I probably wouldn't hear it. Thank you.
Rula Ramadan, 11 Carolina Avenue. This is my first board meeting, so bear with me as well. Somebody had said something about not letting it get to the student in school. I think that's a little bit too late. I don't know who said it, but another plan has to be created. And if you think that 2 and 3 is horrific, then how can you support number 1? Because they're all horrific. The teachers are asking for compensation that they deserve, and the best you came up with was to fire more. I have watched as over 12 members of my family have gone through your school system, and if there is anything that I have learned is that I have the right to have an opinion, and I am more than entitled to share it in West Orange. That's why I'm here. I mean, I've always dreamed of one day becoming an educator. I'm currently pursuing it because of the teachers that I've had in this school system who continue to ignite that flame. But over the years, especially recently, I've seen a decline in that motivation and happiness of some of those same teachers. I've seen the life nearly sucked out of them because along with maintaining 5 days a week and creating relationships like a family with these students in these classrooms, these teachers have to maintain second and third jobs. And their weekends, they're not weekends. Those are just more work days. I don't think I've ever heard anyone in a civil servant position, especially teaching, say they were in it for the money, but that is no excuse. This is one of the only careers that require a higher education, bachelor's and master's to make any good money. It's the same career that houses the people that have gotten all of you and all of us in this room to where we are today. It has pulled people in their lowest points to a place in their life when they can be established again. So to say that I am disappointed is a complete understatement. If there's any one group of professionals who deserve a proper contract, it is the educators of West Orange. I'm confident in that statement. I'm no good at math. I can tell you that confidently. I'm not a money person. But it seems like a lot of money is being lost. I mean, when I lose a $10 bill, I have a mini heart attack. So I think it's really time to take accountability, take action, walk the walk, and vote in favor of a contract and create a budget that all of these educators and administrators deserve.
Hi, my name is Susan Pasquale. I live at 22 Overlook Avenue. I'm here tonight for the teachers, and I think all 3 of these options suck. I don't think any of them are appropriate. I don't think there should be any layoffs, and I think you all need to work together and find results. These teachers, this is ridiculous what's going on, and it's taking too long.
Hello, Cindy Matute Brown, 24 Corwell Circle, West Orange. I gotta tell you, I am quite dismayed, very upset, really taken aback by what we've heard here. I agree with everyone who's come before us. Mr. Schwartzbaum, I agree with your statements. I think that these options are horrendous and we need to find more. I am really, really very concerned about the fact that we have not budgeted to cap. We need to budget to cap in order to be able to avoid being in this position. And in all these years that have gone by, we have not done that. Had we done that, then maybe we would have had a better surplus, an investment that go back into the schools. But the options that are given here today are outrageous. They're simply outrageous. And I know that we keep talking about the healthcare costs, but those savings that you find in your budget, should the teachers settle on a contract where they have to contribute more to the healthcare, is not fair to them. So I think, and I agree with Ms. Gattens when she said that this has to be put out to a vote. This is ultimately our decision. If we can go above the 2% cap, let us decide. But this is unfortunately a desperate place to be in. And I also have to agree with the fact that if we've been kicking the can down the road, like Ms. Mordecai has said about the pre-K program, it's outrageous to me, and I understand need. I work in Jersey City. People camp out overnight. They were removed from tents, freezing tents, because of the need of pre-care. It's not new to West Orange. It's not new to anyone in the state. But if we're looking at funding a program that we can't afford programs to keep for the kids that are here already, to me, that's outrageous. It's not the time to do that. We need to fix what's wrong here first. And yes, the need and the opportunity may be there, but at what expense? At the expense of our teachers? They've been working for far too long without a contract. I'm here to support them, and I'm challenging you to come up with additional options because these are unacceptable.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nicole Rufo. I live on 4 Overlook Avenue. I am speaking as a former teacher who sat in a room just like this and heard of budget cuts and what that means to all these people. I don't think I heard one of you actually say, wow, it must be really hard for them. You guys talked about how hard it must be, like how sad and difficult this is for you, thinking about them. But what about them? What about these people in the audience right now who already have what they're saying is the lowest morale at this time? And for them to right now have this thrown at them. And I understand it's not easy. I understand balancing budgets are very difficult, and making a school budget, especially with what's happening from our state and from the governor, it's not your choice. I understand that. Also, just a simple thing, my kids go to Gregory School. I drove by the other day. It's 40 degrees outside. Every single window is open. Heat is pumping in that school at a crazy rate. I'm a class parent. Every time I'm in there, I wear a T-shirt. It's 100 degrees in there. I'm sure the teachers could be taking temperatures and telling you how hot it is in some of those classrooms. Heat is just pumping out, and they have the windows open, and there's no control. And that, to me, is wasted money. And how many of the buildings are doing this? And I know you said there was some kind of energy, I don't know what they found, but they obviously didn't find or fix anything at Gregory School, because it's such an unsafe way to learn in a room that's hot. It isn't conducive to any kind of learning environment to be sitting there and sleepy and not being able to. My son actually only has short sleeve shirts right now. He won't let me buy long sleeve shirts for him because his classrooms are so hot. So look into that. Thank you.
Ken Alper, 45 Collimore. Nicole's definitely right, by the way, about the heat in Gregory. Little different because he's my son, but he's been wearing shorts all year. It's always hot over there. But a question, is it possible to bond for the preschool possibly? It sounds like it's an opportunity that maybe we shouldn't let go, but it's really coming at a bad time. As far as the budget, I just think it's important to understand that if you divide those average costs per household by 12, the difference between the three options is $7 a month. I know Mark did some of the math, but I did the rest sitting there. It's $15 a month for an average household in option 3 and $22.58 a month at option 1. That's $7 a month between horrible and slightly less horrible. I don't want to hear about options 4 and 5. I want to know what option 0.5 and option 0 is. And if there's a way that we can spend some more of the banked cap and get a little bit, save some jobs, I would like to hear about that. I don't know if there's support for a vote to exceed cap, but I hope that's being looked at too, and that every possible option is being considered, including the ones no one's really maybe thought about yet. Obviously, I appreciate the board's efforts to do whatever they can to keep property taxes from rising any more than necessary, but I don't want to see programs and people put on the chopping block for the sake of $7 a month to the taxpayer, just so that you're able to say you came in under cap. If you need to exceed, exceed. This isn't the year to be shorting our schools. The negotiations will end eventually, and hopefully soon our teachers will have a new contract. So everyone knows that that's going to happen, and I think you all realize that the community realizes that that's probably going to lead to some tax increase. And I think people have accepted that that will happen, and it's fair. And when you're already looking at an increase, if it's going to be $15 or $7 or $22, an extra $5, $10, it's not a difference, and it's ridiculous to fight over that little amount, that much. So, thanks.
Hello, my name is Jessica Jacobs. I live at 15 Stephen Terrace. I have 2 children in West Orange Public Schools, and I'm here today on their behalf. The Board of Education has not reached a settlement with the staff for nearly 2 years, and this has certainly been a negative for the town and for the schools. I have read many online posts from many parents who want you to quickly reach a fair agreement, one that actually gives the teachers a raise so the schools and the staff can put this enormous problem behind us and get back to focusing on our students. And yet you have been unwilling to make the compromises needed to reach a settlement. It would be a disaster if this board decides not to budget to cap or use the banked cap from prior years. This would be an act of gross negligence. It would show that you are not working to make our schools their best, but are serving your own petty political interests or the interests of groups who don't put many students in our schools. If you do budget below the cap, you cannot possibly honestly hope to reach a fair settlement with the teachers. You will claim poverty, but it will be self-created poverty. This is madness. A miserly budget will result in a loss of staff members and, of course, an increase in class sizes. This is a diminishment of services and will have a tremendous negative effect on the quality of education delivered to my children. To say that staff reductions and increased class sizes will not have a negative impact on our students would simply be dishonest. It will also drive my property values down. People move to West Orange for the schools. If you hurt them, people will move from here. These moves will cause flight from the town to those towns that care about their schools and show it by fully funding them, by going to CAP. If you purposely starve the schools of money, which is what the budget does, you will not be able to give the teachers a fair contract, and this will mean my child may not be able to get letters of recommendation written for the college he hopes to attend because the teachers, in my opinion, rightfully are ready to stop volunteering for this very important task to bring attention to their situation. They don't want to do this, but as you leave millions on the side of the road or
Check, check.
Teachers do not want to do this, but if you leave millions on the side of the road and claim poverty, what other leverage do they have? Mrs. Mordecai and Mrs. Lab, you and your children enjoyed and benefited from the incredible quality of West Orange schools when they were fully funded. Why is it that you now choose to underfund our schools so that my children and the thousands of students enrolled in town cannot enjoy the same quality of education that you fought for when your children's education was on the line? My children deserve just as much.
Hi, Perla Mondriguez, 59 Winding Way. If we're overcrowded now, and we have been for years, having our students in trailers, not having adequate preschool space, how is it that the one major development project going on right now is housing, condos on Main Street? How is it that our Board of Ed didn't work better with our town council or push back harder to say, we have a problem now, and we're going to develop housing for more residents? I mean, we're kidding ourselves if we're going to say that every single family that moves in will not have a child. They're going to be young couples. And we're kidding ourselves if we think that we're going to get all this tax revenue from these condo sales, because as a former condo owner in a brand new development, we give tax abatements. So as our elected representatives, I just ask that you work better with our town council in saying we have these problems. We have these problems right now. We are talking about laying off teachers. We don't have the money. We don't have the space. And let's think of a better use of that space than inviting more residents in, because we can't even give our teachers and our residents what they need right now. I don't understand how that's happened, how that decision was made given these problems.
Hi, everybody. Megan Brill, 1 Oakcrest Road. I could speak at length about the Edison Villages redevelopment project. I can tell you that it's private property, and the town council has very little ability to change what the makeup of that population coming into that building is going to be, and that I would watch the upcoming meetings when they start talking about who are the actual people that are coming in. Having sat in your seat, I completely understand how difficult this budget is. The 2013 budget was overnight. We lost $6 million in funding, and I remember us trying to figure out how we could continue the great school system that we had and the great projection of new programs and new things every year within our program. I can say that I caution the public in trying to figure out what each one of you are thinking about this budget. I know none of you came into this meeting tonight easily thinking that you were going to lay off 111 staff members. I think the only thing I didn't hear tonight was reduction in full-day kindergarten to half-day kindergarten, so I was glad about that. I think that I made a lot of notes. You already covered the supplies and computers and the things that are within that program. One of the things within the science program is the new curriculum, which is greatly needed. I think we're on our 7th year with the old curriculum. In addition, that biology teacher, my kid had bio last year, you can't put 30 kids in a bio class and expect us to do well on that state test. The other thing you guys mentioned, and I think it was Irv, the 1.7 million reduction that would be picked up in benefits. I caution you to tie a passing of the budget or a levy that you will approve based on what we think we can give the teachers union in a raise. And I haven't completely thought out how to say that. I'll send you an email in the morning. But I think that if you say we're going to raise taxes $100 a month and cut a deal with the teachers, and then that doesn't happen, I think that that's a dangerous place to be. I think that you should figure out what it needs to run our school district in the next coming year and fairly cut a deal with our teachers as well. In addition to that, I don't know how you would ever vote on a budget now. I know we always said that we wouldn't have to vote on our budget if we had in November, we moved the election to November. I don't even know how that would work. How do we have an operating budget and then in the last quarter of the year be able to settle, to approve the budget? I don't know how that would work. I have a whole bunch of other points. I will be here on Wednesday night. I agree that you needed to present all 3 scenarios tonight at least, and it is your job as board members to figure out what the tax levy is going to be and treat fairly the taxpayers of the township, as well as providing, the great programs and the district that I was here and helped build, and my kid is still here. And I think that it's really sad. I think that the one thing missing, I know I'm out of time, the one thing that I think is missing in this budget is that great new program that we get to be so proud of, and there's nothing new, there's nothing good and happy in any of these scenarios. So I'll see you on Wednesday night.
Thank you.
Paul Pettigrew, 4 Cunningham Drive, West Orange. I sympathize with you guys, having been there for 12 years and participated in the devastation that the governor gave us some years ago. You have presented 3 alternatives, but you only presented 1 alternative, and that's alternative 1. Alternative 2 and alternative 3 would be a disaster for the school system. Alternative 1 is a semi-disaster for the school system. But the idea that we're going to go out, and I do understand how you can, if you go above cap, go out to the voters of West Orange, I would not recommend that. I just don't think that's a good idea. We finally got rid of the vote, having worked for the first, I don't know how many years I worked on votes, 2 referendums. I just don't think it's a good idea. I have to admit I haven't paid as much attention to the school system over the last couple of years, but now my grandson is a kindergartner at Redwood School, so now I'm paying a little more attention to the schools. I was really depressed to find out that we lost $800,000, that we didn't spend the cap and that money is gone. I think that in the future, you need to think in the long run. In the long run, you need to spend the cap. The idea that you're going to save a couple of bucks in 1 year, the chickens are going to come home to roost. It doesn't make any sense. In response to Irv's math for 4% this year, I think what you really have to do is look over the last 4 or 5 years. What's the average been over the last 4 or 5 years? And it's obviously going to be probably less than 2% because you lost that $800,000 that 1 year. So you didn't even spend at maybe a little less than 2%, but 2%. So I would encourage you to go with alternative one, and I would encourage you in the future to go to CAP. Thank you.
Hi, Sarah Doring. I live at 47 Oak Ridge Road. I have 2 kids at Hazel. I would be the first to admit that I think our taxes in West Orange are very high. And like many residents, I'm loath to see them increase. However, I agree with Ken, I think his name was, that I would absolutely support an increase if that's what it's going to take to get our teachers a contract that is befitting educators of their skill and dedication. Our teachers are professionals, and they should receive the pay and benefits that educated professionals deserve. I would hate to see our qualified and committed teachers leave West Orange because they feel undervalued, which is how I think they feel right now. Teachers, please know that myself and other West Orange parents value you and you are appreciated. And I think a lot of us share these sentiments and would be willing to see our taxes increase for that purpose.
Hi, Kiva Schultz, 25 Aspen Road. I agree with having the teachers fairly paid, fairly compensated. They're teaching our generation, and they're actually teaching the students. That's going to take care of everyone here when you guys get older, including myself. So let's do the right thing there. As far as the budget that's been thrown out, I just have some ideas. I'm a nurse, so factor in maybe partnerships with healthcare systems that have their own health insurance. For example, like Northwell Health. I'm not aware if there's any in New Jersey, but maybe consider that. Find out what other districts, not just in New Jersey, but around the country you're doing, because I'm sure that there's budget shortfalls all across the nation. I also think as far as preschool, preschool is essential. It starts before preschool. It starts probably during pregnancy, where we educate and we make sure that women, family, everyone understands this is a team effort and everyone needs to be involved so that our children are well educated and they can take care of themselves and be successful citizens and take care of their community as well. I also would suggest partnerships with like STEAM organizations, STEM organizations that are out there that can come into the school system on a volunteer basis. If that means that you put up a banner in front and say, hey, here's the Engineers of America. They're here, and they are supporting our students. I think those are ways that we have to think outside of the box to find out what else is out there that we can honestly pour into our kids, reinforce so that they can blossom in our community and in this country and in the world. That's it. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Jean Torito. I've been a teacher in Gregory School for the past 22 years. And you may be happy to know that, thank you. I don't have a comment or an opinion tonight. I have a question, and I have a tidbit of information that may be helpful to some people. My question is, have you worked out the numbers to find out what the percentage increase would be in order to cover the shortfall on option number 1? In other words, would the increase have to be 5%? Would it be 3%? Would it be 2.1%? And then what would that actually come to in terms of dollars and cents to the taxpayers? So for option number 1, the amount I think was a $271 increase. Would it increase to $300, $1,000? How much of an increase are we actually talking about? The bit of information that I have that might be helpful to senior citizens is that they can actually have their real estate taxes frozen through this. I believe it's the state that sends the money to the town. I'm not sure exactly. My sister works for the tax assessor's office in Livingston. She found out about it from my dad. My dad's had his taxes frozen for years now. They fill out an application. I think that there's some kind of income qualification. But a lot of people in town may not be aware of that. And if the senior citizens knew that their taxes could be frozen, it wouldn't matter how much the tax increase went up because of the schools, because they wouldn't be impacted. So I think that might be helpful for you to put out that information to the town people in order to help alleviate any impact that they would have felt. That's it. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mark Maniscalco. If we're truly in a crisis, it's time to go into crisis mode. We've heard it from some of the audience members, but you've not discussed the alternative option, which is budgeting what we actually need to run the schools and taking it to the voters. Essex County has 21 school districts. Some are good, some are not so good, some are great. I'm proud that the West Orange schools I've served for the last 2 decades have been among the best. As you know, people flock to towns with good schools and run from those where the schools are poor. Property values stay strong where boards are committed to the schools, and they plummet where boards abandon their duty to maintain the best possible schools. We're at a crossroads with this budget, especially after the 2 that preceded it, which have put us in this quandary. We must make a decision whether our children are worth our investment. We must decide whether our town is looking towards a bright future or whether we are steering West Orange towards a bleak future. We must act aggressively to maintain the quality of our schools. I've done some research and can tell you where boards have been looking forward, where they are investing in their kids, where they are investing in the futures to preserve property values and the strong characters of their towns. The following are the Essex County towns that over the last 3 years have more often than not either budgeted to cap or gone over cap using their bank cap, and in doing so demonstrated their commitment to the children, to the schools, and the future of the town. Those towns are Livingston, Milburn, Montclair, Colwell, West Colwell, Essex Fells, Glen Ridge, North Colwell, Nutley, Roseland, Verona, West Essex, Fairfield, Belleville, and Bloomfield. All regularly go to cap or beyond. 2 other local districts, Cedar Grove and South Orange Maplewood, would be on this list, except that last year Cedar Grove was about 60,000 under cap, and South Orange was 1/10 of 1% under cap. Which schools routinely underfunded their schools and hurt their kids by routinely failing to budget to cap? Here's the list: Newark, East Orange, Irvington, and Orange. Is anyone moving into those towns for the schools? When we talk of towns with excellent schools, do those 4 names come to mind? When you think of places with good property values, are these your ideals? I forgot one other town that has, for at least the last few years, underfunded its schools by refusing to fund to cap. That district is West Orange. This is why we're in this apparent bind. It is not something to be proud of. I believe that most of us want our children in schools led by boards that show they actually care for the quality of education provided in town. They show their dedication by putting their money where their mouths are. It's not just talk. Boards like those in Livingston, Milburn, Colwell, Verona, Essex Fells, no doubt they would ask the voters to fund the schools. I want my kids' schools lumped in with that group, not with Newark, Irvington, and East Orange. I want to invest in a home in a town where the board's commitment to schools protects my property values, like they do in Montclair, Nutley, Fairfield, Roseland, North Colwell, not like Newark, Irvington, and East Orange. You have a choice. If you want to be aligned with and compared to the schools and property values of Newark, Irvington, East Orange, Orange, persist with this misguided budget, cut staff, increase class sizes, decrease the quality of our education. It's a formula for disaster. If you want a town and schools like Livingston, Milburn, Montclair, Essex Fells, Verona, or the Colwells, you need to reverse course immediately. Budget what you need. Ask the voters if they want the quality to stay or to be diminished. Thank you.
Good evening. Tony Fields, Brookside Road. When I listen tonight at all this being exchanged with all of the people and yourselves, what I'm looking at is I'm witnessing a microcosm of what's happening right now on Capitol Hill. My suggestion to you is what was suggested to Paul Ryan. Tear it up and start all over. The fact of the matter is that what we're being shown is 2 options. It's either the degradation of an education for a child or the dismemberment of a teacher's contract. Those are not 2 favorable options in either way. So what we need to do is we need to try to find a better way. So tear it up and start all over.
Okay, let's see. First, I just want to say I hear what I hear what everyone's saying about budgeting to cap or going over capping, going out to the community for budget vote. When I first got on the board was the last time we had a budget vote on the ballot. The budget was voted down by the community. We lost $6 million. And what you don't know is that when a budget gets voted down by the community, then our budget goes over to the town council. And what happened to us after that is the town council then cut another $2 million from our budget. We were really struggling that year. We cut about 94 positions. We combined the math and science supervisor and many other positions that you can't even imagine should be combined. And we have slowly, over the last few years, pretty much gone back to where we were in, filling those positions back again. We no longer have a science and math supervisor that's combined. It's two separate supervisors. I would hesitate to go out to the community for a vote. The community over the past 5 to 10 years has changed demographically. The socioeconomic balance is not what it used to be. And I heard what someone said about the senior tax freeze. I think a few years ago that program was revamped, and not only is there an income limit, I don't think they're allowing anybody else in that program. I could be wrong. I haven't looked at that in some time, but I know from some seniors who cannot get into that program, and they're at the income limit. Thank you, Mrs. Brill, for your comments about the Edison property, and that is a very long conversation to have. I'm sure the community is very familiar with the Edison property. It started 12, 15 years ago, and I'm not sure if you know that some of the board members are liaisons to the town council. I was a liaison to the town council at one point when Mrs. Castellino was on the board, and now the liaisons to the town council is Mr. Schwartzbaum and Mr. Charles. We speak with the town council all the time, but this, as Mrs. Brill said, is a private property. We don't have any say in what a private owner can do with their property. That being said, let's see. Mrs. Druring, we absolutely value teachers. We all do. All of our children were educated by teachers. And we've been working really, really hard to come to agreement with the contract. And I believe we're progressing quite nicely in a positive direction, Mr. Maniscalco. He's probably gone. But okay, we're progressing, I think, quite nicely with the contract, but Mrs. Lab will speak to that as a member of the negotiating committee. Let's see. Thank you for the comments about partnerships. We definitely do have partnerships with several STEM organizations and also with Cisco, which was mentioned earlier, with colleges such as Kane University, Montclair State, various organizations we partner with. And at one point, we were looking at partnering with Kessler and Barnabas to do some things with, but it wasn't a viable option. So that did not materialize. Let's see. That is all I have at this time. Mr. Rutsky, could you please speak to the process in, I know you had all these wonderful slides and Mr. Calavana did a lot of work, but maybe you need to clarify how we did this budget, because it's the second or third year now we're doing a zero-based budget system, and I know we start from scratch for everything.
We do. I just want to thank Ms. Torito. We'll get that number, Jeannie, we'll get that number about what the shortfall increase would be for option 1, and we'll certainly look into the piece with the senior citizens. I think Ms. Mordecai is correct that process was in place and it is frozen now. That ours can't get in. We could be wrong. We'll look into that before the week is over and see what we can find. Ms. Schultz, I also appreciate all the comments that you made about the partnerships and the preschool being essential as well. Again, the budget is so hard when you're looking at any deficit. Nobody wants to have a program cut. a staff member lost. There's a lot of work that went into with the principals evaluating their class sizes and determining is there movement. And one of the schools in particular, we were in the low teens, and that principal felt very comfortable moving those class sizes to 17 to 20, and that's certainly not an unreasonable number, and that would allow for some of this budget deficit to get back to being balanced. But it is a very, very hard process. Again, negotiations are moving forward, and as Ms. Mordecai said, Ms. Lab can certainly address that piece. But we understand we all want the budget, or excuse me, we all want the contract to get settled. Very important piece. Those are the two things that are the absolute focus is the budget and the contract. And right now, because it's budget time and Wednesday is the budget meeting, it's a priority, but Friday we had a nice meeting with Mr. Maniscalco and just trying to move that process and get it done. And that's really what it comes down to. So clearly those are the two most important things we want to do. Slab.
Yeah, I just have one addition. Mrs. Holland, I know you said you, okay. Okay. Okay.
Mr. Calavano, Mr. Alpert, am I on? Mr. Alpert made a suggestion. Are we allowed or able to bond for a rental fee?
I don't believe so because it's considered operating costs.
Okay.
It's also below the minimum.
Yes.
Right.
I just wanted to get clarification on that suggestion. Would have been good in a perfect world, Mr. Alpert, but thanks. That was okay. What else do we have here? About negotiations, I mean, I can't get into detail. I know we did have a very, very productive meeting on Friday with Mr. Maniscalco, his president, and his treasurer. Met with me and the superintendent. Mr. Schwartzbaum was tied up at work. We were able to secure the numbers from our insurance company, which Mr. Maniscalco will be presenting to the membership. There are some very specific options with information that will be presented to you as to which plans are available, what the impact will be. So I know Mr. Maniscalco is looking to, Mark, where are you, Mark? You're the guy in the red. Yeah, okay, thanks a lot. I know he's looking to have meetings in, I think, maybe 2 groupings or 3 groupings, however he's setting it up. I know he's in discussion with the NJEA. Hopefully we can have those meetings sooner than later. But I think, again, we did have a very, very productive meeting the other day, and it's all about the money. We know what it's about. And if we can come to a consensus with that, then we could start addressing the salary guides, because those will be secondary after this. I mean, as you see tonight on the budget, on the agenda, we are announcing that we've now come to a final agreement with the WOAA. We've now passed, or they have passed, their salary structure by 1 vote short of unanimous. So that has to tell you that there was a very, very good offer. We've now closed out with 3 of our 4 unions. So obviously the WOAA is the biggest, it's the largest. But again, that should show you the good faith effort that has been made with those negotiation teams and ours. And again, I believe we had a phenomenal meeting the other day, and hopefully Mr. Maniscalco can arrange those meetings with his membership to give us the, Mark, go ahead. Well, they have agreed to what has been on the table, so we'll not even go into that because I can't get into the specifics right now as far as numbers. I'm going to wait for you to bring that to your people. But they've certainly agreed to the programs or to the offerings. That aside, as far as this evening goes, I think, I mean, we didn't know Gregory School was hot, by the way. I had no idea. Thank you for bringing that up. I've been hot since 2008. I did not know that. Thank you for, we didn't know that. That just No idea. I'm aware. Okay. I'm quite aware of. Thank you. But, all right, that I'm not going to put up with. I've now given 20 years of my life volunteering for this school district. Ms. Mordecai has given 10. To assume because our kids have graduated that we don't care anymore, that is an outrageous statement, and I take offense at that. Again, 20 years of my life I've given to this district. Ms. Mordecai, you want to speak to that a little bit?
And actually, if you want to go further back, it's more than 20 years for you and more than 10 for me, because you were one of the 3 founders of PASS, and I was one of the founding members of PASS. And we've been working really hard as, I don't know if everybody knows that the Board of Ed is a volunteer position, and we work numerous of hours. And we do it willingly because we want to make sure that the school system is sustainable. I invite any one of you to come and spend the week with one of us as we go all through the district, go down to Trenton, go to the various special ed meetings or other committee meetings that we go to in Trenton, and the county meetings all over. So we do work very hard, and don't make the assumption that we come to the board meeting and we just sit here. We've gone over these budget numbers for a few weeks now, after the administration gave it to us, and we are really in a hard place as well. We're not making these decisions lightly, and we do value our teachers. So please don't make any assumptions. Okay, if
I'd like to make some comments.
Okay, Mr. Robertson.
I hear the frustration, the anger, the discontent, and the caring loud and clear. And I know many of you teachers because you've taught my kids or teaching my kids now. When my son started having challenges, some of you helped save my kid. You're cultivating, educating, nurturing our kids on a daily basis. And we need to do, and I believe earnestly, when we come to the table, we'll try to do everything possible to bring about an agreement that makes you feel valued. And I know many of you are struggling financially. In my first career, I was a social worker. I left it because I couldn't pay my bills, not because it wasn't the job I loved the most in life. So I get that. And I don't want any of you to have to leave your professions because you simply can't afford to do what you love the most. In regard to looking at bonding opportunities and that sort of thing, while it doesn't qualify for the preschool in this case, you should also be aware that often as part of what we're paying for, we're also paying for what's been done in the past. We still owe somewhere between 20 and 25 million on Liberty. And, folks may not realize that. In terms of, and Mrs. Brill, I adore you, in terms of the downtown project, it is true it's private property, but I urge you to get involved with your town council, your planning board, and your zoning board. A while back, a deal was cut that includes a 30-year tax break, and if you look at the town's strategic plan, you'll find that it, for too long, emphasized residential development, while we have one of the worst ratios of commercial ratables to contribution to the tax base in the entire state. So that's something that's a strategic issue that the town council can address, the planning board, the zoning board. What we issue and what we approve will determine much of what's going to happen in the future. Some trains have already left the station. Downtown project, that left the that train's left the station. The development in the valley, but there are things that can be done, and I urge you to talk to your town council to be active in getting that done, to bring businesses into the town so we increase commercial ratables and aren't focused merely on bringing more people in, which will swell the school system ultimately. And I've spoken about this in meetings, I've spoken about it in the press, so I've tried to speak out, but you have to be active on that front. We really don't have, when we are liaising with the town. It's more about what issues and things are going to directly affect us that we can also have some say-so or control over. The town's development and the path it's taking, we can voice opinions, but you need to get proactive with your council and your mayor and all of that. As we're looking ahead, I got to admit I'm a bit frustrated because we have started the effort to reach out for partnerships and grants and that sort of thing. We're a little late to the party, and we need to increase that effort. There are 100 corporate opportunities. There are foundation opportunities. Some of these can fund teaching positions. They can fund programs. They can fund STEM. And I applaud our superintendent for getting the ball rolling on this. We are late to the party, but we need to do a lot more of this. And I'm going to keep pushing that. We are not doing as much as we can with that. And that can help to fund programs, fund positions, fund our future. And I'm saying this having worked with education nonprofits that also had high school partnerships where one grant may have been $250,000. So we need to do more, we need to do better, and we need to be more consistent with that because that also impacts budget and funding in our future. In terms of going back and tearing it up and starting over, I can tell you that every day we're looking hard and deep and wading through hundreds of pages, many line items, and everyone on this board is putting in a lot of time. We don't always agree on everything, but I can tell you that everyone's been dedicated, putting in a lot of time to try to find solutions. And no, option 2 and 3 isn't even a consideration, and option 1 is not good enough. We get that. But there's also, we've got to go back and see what we can find and what we can do and dig in deeper again and keep looking for solutions because teachers, administrators, nurses, SAC counselors, you are truly what makes our school system run. You're who educates our kids, and we get that. I know I personally get that. In terms of taking things back to the taxpayers, taking the vote back, we'll discuss it as a board, but I know I've received a lot of feedback offline about this from folks. And when you look at the history, and Mrs. Mordecai mentioned this, when you look at the history in our doing that, it hasn't been a good one. We actually ended up losing more monies if the voters did not approve it, and there are a lot of new people in town and who don't always necessarily, who may or may not identify. I forget how many, was it 700, was it 700 new homes or over the past year, I forget. But new home buyers, we have a lot of new folks in town. We also have a lot of folks in town who are feeling tax pressures, and not everyone is valuing, as I said, for me, making the additional investment, it's a no-brainer. It's not a question. We could not guarantee if we took this back to the voters that that's going to be the response. Frankly, we should do research even before we consider doing that, because we don't want to end up with our budget in the hands of the town council to then determine when they're strapped for money, when the town overall is having financial challenges. We don't want to put our future back in their hands. That's a very dangerous proposition, in my opinion. Thank you for your opinions, for your insights, for your caring, for your concern, and we'll go back and continue to try. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Now let's get back to the agenda. Does anyone have any questions on the public agenda items only? No, we did questions on the budget. Some people, no questions on the agenda? No.
No, that was pretty much the main focus.
No,
that was
if any, okay. Let's
move on.
let's move ahead then.
Keep it moving.
Mrs. Labb, could you please go over the board policies that are listed?
Thank you, Madam President. If we could first have a motion for moving these four policies, and we could just move them together.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
All righty, very good. As it is first reading, I'll just give a very brief overview. Policy 5145.70, Gender and Identity Expression. The purpose is to create and to comply with the New Jersey state law that we provide a safe learning environment for all students that does not discriminate based upon numerous characteristics, including gender identity. Media Center Library Policy 6163.10. There's language here basically to expand access to computers, software, and supplemental materials within our libraries for the purposes of research. That's basically what's happening there. Policy 6164.40, Child Study Team. This gives a very specific definition of the composition of the child study team by discipline. We've also inserted language that will include participation by child study team and parents / guardian during the evaluation process, and there's also a more defined procedure for students identified at risk. Policy 6171, Special Instructional Programs. Here there's just basically minor language changes from the previous labeling of students as disaffected and alienated to students at risk for failure. There's also a minor language change from limited English proficiency to English language learners. And that's it, Madam President, if we just get a vote on the first reading.
Okay, thank you.
Bert, did you-
Generally, we reserve comments on the policies for second reading. Mr. Schwarzbaum? Okay, did we have a first and second on the board policies?
Yes.
Yeah.
Full vote?
Mr. Charles?
Yes.
Mrs. Lab?
Yes.
Mr. Robertson?
Yes.
Vice President Schwartzbaum?
Yes.
President Mordecai?
Yes. Now, I believe we also have to vote on the various options for the preliminary budget for the administration to go back and work some more and then re-present it on Wednesday.
We don't need to have an
We-
official vote.
We don't need to vote on the
know
options?
where-
You don't want to know where we stand,
It's
though?
not an official vote. All it is that where you stand, because if the last conversation was that you wanted a 2+ cap, a 2, and a 1.5. So that's what was given. So now we need to determine, because now we got to focus for Wednesday night on where we're going here.
Okay. So, okay, Mr. Robertson?
Option one with major modifications, because it's not where it should be. I mean, we're spending the cap. We're using, we're using all of our reserve funds. We need to look at how, once again, take a second look at what we can cut in terms of any material resources, supplies, etc. And understanding that some of the supplies are not paper clips, as it's been said. We need to take a second look at basically how we can reallocate resources to address the need and avoid cutting wherever possible, putting people first and property and product last.
So is that an option one with more revisions?
With major revisions, yes.
Okay, we need to instruct the administration.
Oh, we
Mr.
will.
Schwartzbaum?
I vote no. I think we need to come up with option 4 and 5.
Yep.
Mrs. Lab?
Option one, with, however we can work that out with different revisions and suggestions from you for Wednesday.
Mr. Charles?
I don't like any of the options, to be honest. I think that losing just one staff person is not something that I want to support. On the other hand, do I want to cut the programs that my 2 younger children may want to participate in, as my 2 older ones have? So I don't want to support that as well. So if I have to take one, I'm going to take option 1, but there has to be some more reductions, I believe. We have to sharpen the pencils. We have to, find a way so that we can maintain the programs, okay, and the staff can remain intact. If that's option 0.5 or 6 or 7 or whatever we come up with, I think we have to do that, and that's what I'm committed to doing.
Okay, so that's an option 1, just to clarify,
Option 1, yes.
with revisions.
Major
Major
revisions.
revisions.
Major revisions.
Okay. I agree with my colleagues. Option 1, although none of the options are good, each one's worse than the other, option 1 seems to have the least damage. So I agree, option 1 with more revisions so that we cut less programs and faculty and staff. Thank you, Mr. Calavana, for all your hard work. And
So just remember, tonight's Monday evening.
yes,
Wednesday's the budget presentation, so
yes,
I don't know how much of a modification we're going to be able to get to you.
okay.
But remember, we still have, from the time that we vote Wednesday evening to May
Wednesday.
1st, to
May
make
1st.
further modifications.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. May I have a motion, please, for personnel? A1 through 5.
I'll move that.
5, sorry, 5.
May I have a second, please?
MOA. I'll second.
Mr. Calavana, roll call? Oh, actually, no. I want to recognize Mrs. Hall is retiring. She's only been with us for 3 years, but she's been working really hard for 3 years, and we've come to know and love her, and we're going to miss her greatly. Thank you, Mrs. Walls. Let's see. Does anyone else have any comments on personnel or questions?
Well, no,
I
just,
want to comment regarding item number 5, that
Good.
Okay.
we reached an agreement with the West Orange Administrator Association.
and I would like to thank the administrators for their negotiations. I see Ms. Pilar is here. I'm not sure if any of the other team members from negotiations are here, but thank you very much. And to your representative from your association, it was a long process, but I think both sides came out okay, and I want to thank you for the way that the meetings went. It was as good as it could be. So thank you very much, Dr. Joe, for being there. And again, their salary structure passed 36-1. And I thank the members of your organization for appreciating that the board, our goal was clearly to put forth the idea that we value each one of you equally. And that was the consensus of this salary structure. So thank you once again. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Pilara. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Mr. Calavano?
Mr. Charles?
Yes.
Mrs. Lab?
Yes.
Mr. Robertson?
Yes.
Vice President Schwartzbaum?
Yes.
President Mordecai?
Yes. May I have a motion, please, for curriculum and instruction?
I'll move
1 through
that.
6.
I'll move that.
May I have a second,
I'll
please?
second.
Any discussion?
No.
Thank you.
I just want to congratulate the student teachers because they're getting in under the wire where they don't have to work for a year without any pay.
Yeah, under
That's
the
one
new
of the State Board of
provisions, yeah.
Education's weirdest things they came up with. But this is the last class, Mr. Rutsky, or is that one? That is the last class.
Mrs. DeMendez, is she still here? Hi. Do you mind coming to the microphone to talk a little about the Latino Family Literacy Project? Our assistant superintendent has been working really hard on this project, and it's really, really, really needed, and just want to have you say a few words to the public about what this program's all about.
Sure. The Latino Family Literacy Project is under the leadership of Mary Quiros, our supervisor of ESL and bilingual programs, and she, together with our staff, have done an outstanding job reaching out to our Latino community. The program is designed to help our parents teach their children to read, teach them how to help them with their homework, and teach them how to read as well. So the program has been very successful. We've had a nice showing. They've asked for a second phase to the program to extend it throughout the year, and we're also adding it to the middle school. So it was presently in the elementary, so now it's going to the middle school.
That's excellent.
I just wanted to
Wonderful.
thank you,
Thank
because
you.
by way of background, when you were just brand new to the district last September, we attended, along with Mr. Rutsky, a meeting with the West Orange Hispanic Foundation. Deputy Mayor Rodolfo Rodriguez had started this group about a year ago, and I know from the parents in the room that night that they were so thankful that you were there and expanding this program, because they want to be part of it, and this, you know, they need to be part of it because they're the parents. And by bringing this forth, I think you're going to get a phenomenal turnout. Just from my, near daily discussions with Rodolfo, this is a community that really wants to get involved, and I think this is opening major doors. So thank you very much for putting this forth for us this evening.
Thank you, and thank you to Mary and the staff who are really doing the work.
Yes. Yeah, thank you to Mrs. Quiroz. And this program runs for 10 weeks, and it's paid by Title III funds. And the program at the middle schools runs for 6 weeks, also paid by Title III funds. Roll call vote, Mr. Calavano?
Mr. Charles?
Yes.
Mrs. Lab?
Yes.
Mr. Robertson?
Yes.
Vice President Schwartzbaum?
Yes.
President Mordecai?
Yes. May I have a motion, please, for finance 1 through 9? Actually, no.
1 through 9 special services.
1 through 9.
1 through 11.
Well, it's broken up through special services
Actually,
and
yes.
business office.
Yes, 1 through 9, yes.
I'll move special services 1 through 9 and business office 1 through 11.
I will second.
Any discussion by the board?
Just wanted to comment that on item 1, that, and this is respectfully, this is just an objective fact that that the increase in the budget, the unbudgeted items, is $160,000 to out-of-district placements. It's something we have to provide, but we have to fund. So this is not trying to demonize anyone. Most of my family works in special ed. I know the amount of efforts and significant impact they have, but it's just something we can't ignore the objective data, and that's really it's important to address the objective data and deal with it.
I think too, though, that even as we just did our strategic plan, we need to have a long-term outlook in terms of how we can keep kids in the district, so a kid doesn't have to spend an hour on a bus going somewhere, and it would ultimately could save us money and provide a better, more quality experience for our children. So that's got to be part of the long-term outlook.
I just would like to note, too, on special education item number 9, earlier in the agenda, we are reflecting that we have a speech therapist who's going out, and I think it was family leave or something like that. This is to fill that gap, so services will be provided, just so there's continuity in the agenda for you to read. Just so we're not just sending somebody out, we are filling that placement up.
Thank you.
And then we have some donations.
I'm happy to see that we are continuing our relationship with Montclair State University with the Center for Autism and Early Childhood Mental Health, and thankful to the parent who brought this partnership to us a few years ago. I won't say her name because I didn't ask her permission to put her name out there, so, but I'm thankful to the Kelly parent who brought this to us. Okay. We have a few donations. Thank you to ExxonMobil Educational Alliance for math and science equipment to Washington School for $500. Also to the Municipal Alliance for $250 to Washington School, and to James Melise for the donation of a Honda Pilot 2004 for $3,000 to the West Orange High School. And in case you're wondering what that's all about, or students get to learn all about changing the oil and all the fun things they do in auto shop. And I don't know if we have it up and running already this year, but in previous years, we've offered free oil changes to our senior citizens. I don't know if that started as yet, but it started? Okay. That's a great program. I know quite a few seniors in town who took advantage of this last year. Okay, that's it for me.
Mr. Calavano, I remember reading someplace in our notes regarding the football uniforms that they went out to bid. They were a lot less expensive than previously. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And I see Mr. Bly's here, so thanks, Mr. Bly.
Found us more cost-effective football uniforms, Mr. Bly? Thank you.
Well, we actually didn't have a choice. We had to go out to bid.
Well,
because we thought it was going to be over 40,000, but it came in under.
That's good.
okay.
That's good, thank you. Okay.
That's
May I
it.
have a vote, Mr. Calavano?
Mr. Charles?
Yes.
Mrs. Lab?
Yes.
Mr. Robertson?
Yes.
Vice President Schwartzbaum?
Yes.
And President Mordecai.
Yes. May I have a motion, please, for the balance of the finance items? That was 1 through 9, special services, for the business office.
I moved them already, Sandy.
Oh, you moved all of
Moved
them?
it already,
You did them
yeah.
together?
We broke it up in two parts and moved it.
Okay,
Yep.
yes, you did. We already explained the Educational Information and Resource Center. Okay. May I have a motion, please, for reports?
I'll move reports 1 and 2.
I'll second that.
Roll call vote, Mr. Calavano?
Mr. Charles?
Yes.
Mrs. Lab?
Yes.
Mr. Robertson?
Yes.
Vice President Schwartzbaum?
Yes.
President Mordecai.
Yes. Okay. Are there any reports from my colleagues?
I have two things, Madam President.
Sure. Mr. Charles?
Yes. Beginning of March, I attended the New Jersey State Wrestling Championships down in Atlantic City. Victor Lopez is a West Orange High School wrestler. Set the school record of 137 career wins. It's an outstanding accomplishment, a 4-time district champion, 2-time region champion, and 3-year qualifier in the state of New Jersey state tournament. So Victor ends his career this year as the leading most wins in West Orange High School history at 137. So it's a great accomplishment for him. The other is on a student who graduated a few years back. I don't want to embarrass his mom, who's here, but I do want to congratulate Dylan Pinnell. He had an outstanding, and please if I misspeak, is that he was part of a choir, the Naval Academy choir, and I happened to see his performance on social media. It was outstanding, phenomenal. I certainly encourage everyone to check that out because West Orange, very own Dylan Purnell, a fabulous job. So I don't want to embarrass Susan, but it certainly needs to be noted that. That's all I have.
I missed him singing in Italian at Italian night.
Yes.
Yes.
I have one. I actually just received news today. I've been a judge now for about 7 years for the State School Board's Special Education Awards, and it's a wonderful group that happens once a year. The schools are recognized. Last year, actually, West Orange was recognized for Deb Cohn's program at the high school. But each year, there is a special education group that performs for the gathering, and they just reached out to me today, and it was just confirmed. The special education students who are benefiting from Sanjita and Sunil Bedlani's foundation. We have 11 students at the high school. They're going to be going with their instructor, Deborah Reese, down to the school board's function on May 8th. So I'm really proud that these children are coming out. Of course, I spoke with Sanjita today. She is thrilled. She's going to hopefully be able to attend, but they will be performing for about a group of about 300 that day, and it's right before their concert, so Debbie had said that they're all ready to go. They have their music ready, so it'll be a really nice event for our students. That's all I got.
Very nice. Mr. Schwarzman? Mr. Robertson?
Okay, it's been busy. Sunday, I attended an exciting game as our Mount Pleasant Lady Lions capped off an undefeated season by winning the Mountaintop League Girls Elementary School Basketball Championship. And I tell you, Coach Kenise Williams is going to, at the high school, will have a couple of talented fifth graders who'll be coming down the pike at some point who really dazzle the crowds, including Megan Hackett, who, by the way, will be competing on the Chopped Kids Chef competition on April 11th. So a young lady of many talents, to say the least. Saturday, I got to go to our high school teacher Tony Favetta's book signing and book reading party. The book is Falling from the Ground, and it was targeted at teens, but it's a great read for adults as well. And I'm not going to give anything away, but it's a mystery, sci-fi thriller, and it's a good read. It's very interesting, and it's great to see. Of course, a lot of teachers were coming out, but people from all over the community showed up. It was a massive crowd, and Tony's really writing the book when teachers don't have a lot of time to begin with, and then summers go by very quickly. His writing that book to me sets a great example, really for other teachers who may aspire to their art, as well as for our kids. And it was it was a wonderful event. It's a great book. Make sure to go out and get it. It's on Amazon.com, Falling from the Ground. A couple weeks ago, Superintendent Rutsky, Laura Lavin, myself attended Ryan Del Garcio's engineering class, part of for the Leader of Lights program. That's where they're creating lighting to go over to third world countries and the students. And actually, Megan, your son's in that class. And they were creating lighting that's going over to solar lighting, that's lamps that are going over to third world countries. And the kids are coming up with all these creative designs and solving engineering problems. It's dynamic. So the kids were teaching us how to hook up our circuits and power our lights, and we shed a little bit more light in the world. It was good. It was a lot of fun. And it's just the whole engineering department is just so exciting, very exciting.
I believe that's in conjunction with the Energy Commission of the town with
Yes,
Michael Brick.
that's right. Susan McCartney is there.
Councilwoman McCartney,
and
yes.
it's part of the whole sustainability and and energy, and which is also a key focus at the high school. So it was a lot of fun. Most of my colleagues and I attended the Unico Awards breakfast, and Bawila Idris was honored by her girls soccer coach, Sean DeVore. So that was a great event, because really highlighting athletes who are also leaders on their teams, and through kids who are leading through example. We saw, what else do we do here? Okay. February 25th, our Lady Mountaineer high school basketball team. It was a tough loss by only 2 points, but they capped off the winningest season our girls have ever had in basketball. And not only did they do that, the gym was packed wall to wall. Hundreds and hundreds of people were out there, and we really galvanized not only the basketball community, but really a sense of basketball family. And, hats off to Coach Kenise Williams, and she really has a star group of coaches there, like her own little X squad or Avenger squad, from Doug Nevins to Jacqueline Cruz, who herself also led a winning team for volleyball, and then Megan, who had also played with Coach Kenise together in college. But they have a star group of coaches. They have a great team, and they also have a lot of great parents. And I just want to tell you, these parents really got everybody psyched. And you had the head of the Booster Club, Joy Burnett, is a heck of an organizer, super mom, and her daughter, Jewel, was one of the stars on the court, and has been much acclaimed. She's got a lot of recognition in basketball, and I think she's going off to University of New Haven. But that was such an exciting game. It's been such an exciting season. I got to tell you, girls' sports in general have been the big news this year in terms of sports at West Orange High. From our girls' swim team, volleyball team, tennis team, cheerleaders. I know I'm missing somebody, but we've had so many just great wins, great leadership on the coaching side, and just a lot of our young ladies are really just going out there and showing a lot of courage, a lot of discipline, and really bringing home some exciting wins. I'll leave the Essex County SBA thing for our president, where we are honoring some kids, including one of our own. St. Patty's, not much to say about that, except that for me, it was the first time that both my son and daughter marched in, and my son for ROTC and my daughter for Girl Scouts. It was the freezing and fastest parade ever, because it was incredibly cold out there. It was ridiculous.
Yes, it was the fastest parade. We all marched in.
Oh,
I
man,
think
we
we were
ran
finished. Typically, you're finished around 3. I think we were finished by 1:30.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And Egan's was a great place to be after that. Also got to go to Livingston Mall and enjoy. I missed the Gregory performance, but got to see my daughter's class, Mount Pleasant's 5th grade class orchestra and chorus in concert. And you had Mr. Legatic, whose wife, of course, is working with our high school orchestra, leading that, and Mr. Legatic led the kids, and just was beautiful music. Great to see them working together. And then Mrs. Zimmerman leading the chorus, and it was a wonderful experience. Been going to events every night. Sorry, so I had a lot of these. The Black History Month event at the library was awesome, with West Orange African Heritage Association working together with our public library. There was a quilt art exhibit that was spectacular, poetry readings by some of our talented middle schoolers, including the Achabe kids, and African dance and music. It was just a lot of fun, tremendous fun. And a couple of the kids, unfortunately, will be leaving our school district because they have won scholarships in the White Foundation Gifted and Talented program to now go off to prestigious boarding schools. And I got some feedback on us from them. But it was a spectacular event. And did the Rotary Club Taste of the World. Yes. Got to see our fun friend Cynthia Hadley Bailey, who's a Rotarian VP now, and that was a lot of fun.
That's a lot of fun every year, but
absolutely.
I don't think they had as many restaurants this year.
Yeah.
Mrs. Brill is in the audience.
Yes, you did.
Way too much.
Wish I had.
We need more restaurants next year.
Yeah, and definitely. Now, not to bring down the mood when it's already been a tough budget night, but last Thursday I did attend the honors overview meeting at Roosevelt Middle School. And the good news is that some criteria have been improved in the sense of if you have a B in honors and you're already in an honors class, the route to staying there, you have to retest. So that's a good thing. They increased a little bit the percentage that grades are counting in the rubric for 6th and 7th graders, but still understood that the grades are not counted at all still for 5th graders. And that was disappointing. Just wanted to note a couple of things, that in the criterion that grades are how our parents, our kids are judging their performance on a daily basis. And while I understand, that some districts do use tests, as I looked at this year's graduating class and last year's graduating class, where we had the largest group in honors and AP, and the largest number being accepted to top colleges ever. That group, when they came through middle school honors to get to high school honors, it was primarily grades was the primary criterion. They did take NJ Ask into account, but grades was the number one criterion, and they did have to take, at the time there were only 2 honors, it's English and math, an algebra readiness test. But I found out, Mr. Hush mentioned at the meeting that on this test, on the honors test, that kids will be tested on some material that is either above the level that they're used to or materials that they have not had before in math. And this is a concern to me for a number of reasons. One, for gifted and talented, it's one thing to test kids, things they haven't had before, because you're looking to see how well they can extrapolate, how well they can work against the unknowns. But for our kids in honors, that's a big concern. Some districts even have a rule that you can't test kids on materials that they have not actually been taught before. 2, we have benchmark assessments. I don't know how many parents realize this, but we have our own internal standardized test called quarterly benchmark assessments, because I understand that administrators had concerns about lack of continuity in grading, but we already have a standardized test internally called quarterly benchmark assessments. So all 5th graders are taking the same test, all 6th graders are taking the same test, all 7th graders. So we had a means for standardization already, and somebody had quoted to me that, well, it was, a parent was told who was on the committee that teachers wanted the test. I haven't heard that from teachers. I've heard that we overtest, we test too much, less testing is more, and teachers believe in the grades that they're actually giving our kids. And I think we need to take a hard look at that. Additionally, as I looked at, and this is something I will mention to our board, we found out as a board about the Honors Committee's recommendations a couple of days after the letters already went out to the parents announcing the exam schedule. We did not have a discussion after the February 13th meeting here, no discussion. And as I look at, and I know some of my colleagues believe that the only role that the board is to have is to approve the existence of an honors program, and then it's off for the administration to go off and create one. So I took a look back at our policies. According to our policies, when it comes to curriculum development, the Board of Education shall ensure the curriculum instruction designed and delivered in a way that all pupils are able to demonstrate the knowledge and skills set out in the core curriculum standards, and that the chief school administrator is to ensure the participation not only of staff members, pupils, as appropriate by age, but the community and board members in reviewing all available resources, structure of the program, et cetera. And does it address, we're supposed to identify as a board, does it address a pupil's needs? Is it relevant to our philosophy and goals? Now, why is that relevant? Because we have A students who did not qualify for honors, who are frustrated and feel that their existing courses may not be challenging them, and they're still not qualifying for honors. It's also in our policies that the instruction in courses is to be adopted by the board. And curriculum guides, any revisions to existing curricula is to be adopted, to be reviewed and adopted by the board before it goes into effect. And last, I'm just going to make one more statement. When it comes to curriculum adoption, it states here that in furtherance of this goal and pursuant to the adoption includes both the content, includes the content of a course or of a program, and that any adaptations or revisions to courses of study to meet the changing needs of students or pupils is also to be approved by the board. So I will not go further. There are actually other policy lines that reinforce that, but I would ask my fellow board members that with our superintendent, and I do not fault our superintendent, our board members were aware that this was happening, and I think that we are charged with the board to really take responsibility for the content of what our students are being tested on when it comes to assessments, what the criteria are for the program, and our superintendent is just executing what he's always envisioned, but we as a board need to make sure that we're having the proper review for curriculum content, and I'd ask that we go back and revisit it and actually review it and have a discussion in public on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robertson. If you don't mind, I would like you to email the statement you just read to all the board members, and in particular to Mr. Rutsky,
I'll be
so that
happy
he
to.
may respond in detail, as we haven't seen the document you're reading from, so I don't know if he's prepared to respond.
Well, actually, most of it, to be honest, is taken from actual policies. File code 6143,
I'm not-
6141,
I'm not referring to the policy.
6140. Well,
I know the
am,
policy.
because it's
We're
written in the
referring to the
policy.
statement that you read before the policy.
I'll be happy to share
If
the
you just-
statement, but my
so
concern
that he
for
can
the...
respond, we can put it on the agenda because the public
All
still
right.
hasn't commented yet tonight.
That's great. I just want to
Okay.
make sure that we as a board take a look back at the policy and make sure that when a program is being actually executed, rolled out, that we're adhering to policy in terms of the board reviewing it. Thank you.
Mr. Mordecai, I don't want to get into grades again with honors. I just want to make one statement with the committee. Mr. Fitzgerald brought up the possibility of adding grades from 5th grade when they're testing, moving into 6th grade. And there was a lengthy discussion behind it. 19 out of 21 members said no to having 5th grade. There was actually one administrator and one parent who voted yes. But again, 19 out of 21, we're not quite there yet. And again, we're looking at trying to include that. We're just not there yet. But as far as students, kids with A's not getting into honors, I mean, we have the watch list, and any student who has A's in a class from the year before are on that watch list, and they have the opportunity to get in the next year if they didn't. So they didn't qualify for it, and then they're watched for that first marking period. So it's not like we don't value the grade. We value the teacher's opinion on the honors criteria. But again, I don't want to, and we, every meeting we have this conversation. We don't need, the public needs to say what they need to say, and then we can move on.
Okay, I just have one brief report. As president of the Essex County School Board Association, I was able to host at Liberty Middle School our assembly people from District 27, 28, 29, and 34 for a discussion in particular on school funding. Assemblywoman Sheila Oliver approached the Essex County School Board Association and asked if we were interested in this, and obviously I said yes, because every year we're short funded by both the federal government and the state government. In attendance were all the Essex County board presidents and vice presidents, and a lot of them made similar comments to what you heard tonight. They're going through their budget process, they're going through their teachers' contracts, and they just don't have enough funding from the state. Even going to the 2% cap, it's difficult. And as Mrs. Lab mentioned earlier, with the spec ed, out-of-district private entities, they're allowed to increase their rates 10% or more every year without control. And in the same breath, the public school, we're scrutinized heavily, and we can only go to 2% cap. So they talked a lot about the governor's current budget and that he was going to flat fund us, and yeah, he surely did. So a week later, we received our numbers, and we were flat funded. So that was a nice opportunity to host that and put West Orange on the map and let the assembly people know that not only is West Orange paying attention and advocating for our faculty, staff, and for funding, we are also open to having further discussions with them. So I'm looking forward to them coming back and telling us some more about what they're doing in Trenton to represent for their constituents. In addition, we had a really nice event. Again, the Essex County School Board Association recognized several students in Essex County, including our very own Justin Davis from the high school, who he was brought to our attention last summer when he got off his school bus and got on another school bus to help a special ed student whose mother posted on Facebook, there's something happening, my son's stuck on the bus and I don't know where he is. And he literally jumped off of his own school bus and went to find this kid and responded to the mom on Facebook. He was recognized for his sensitivity and as well as for his academic achievement. He wasn't able to attend the event, so Mr. Moore attended and on his behalf and spoke. But these students, they were called unsung heroes, and basically because they're not the traditional students who would get awards. So it was a really, really nice event. There were several students there. There was a young lady who was blind, who had over 20 college credits graduating from high school. It was just an amazing event, and there was not a dry eye in the room when quite a few of them spoke about all the various challenges they had, from parents, passing away, being raised by foster parents or grandparents, and all the many things that they have to overcome in their young lives and still get 3.5 and higher GPAs. There's so many students there who were accepted to 5, 10 colleges on full scholarships. It was a really good event. I know Mrs. Lab attended the school funding meeting, and so did Mr. Robertson. And Mr. Robertson attended the Unsung Heroes event. And hopefully we can have that event again next year. It's the first time that they had the Unsung Heroes event in Essex County. I was very proud to be able to bring that to West Orange.
Very moving, yeah.
Okay, that's it for me. Now we have petitions and hearings from the residents. If anyone has a comment, please feel free to come to the microphone. And again, there's a time frame on the clock, 3 minutes.
Suzanne Pinnell, 27 Fairview Avenue. Thank you, Mr. Charles. You embarrassed me. But
sorry.
Proud mom, thank you. My son was lucky enough to have Mr. Favetta, so congratulations to him on his awesome achievement. I'm very proud. I came here a few months ago with the collection we do for the troops, and I don't usually get to come on Monday nights, so I was happy I actually had this evening free. I didn't plan on staying this long, but hey. But here I am. It's such a wonderful thing to ask a favor of basically an entire school district, and everybody jumps on board. Mr. Rutsky, thank you so much. The principals of each of the schools, all of the amazing teachers, and especially our students, contributed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cards and letters. The JROTC did item donations as well, and we added that to the other collections that we had. But I have to say that the cards were amazing. Each of our over 50 boxes was packed with a selection of cards from our youngest students with teacher-prompted ideas and beautiful, cutest little pictures, to letters, beautiful heartfelt letters from our middle school and high school students. The responses from the sailors and soldiers who were the lucky recipients were quite moving. They were all overwhelmed that such care and concern was shown by so many students. And I know that the inspiration to those students was presented by the teachers and the principals. These cards, I wish I could have saved them all, but then that wouldn't have been right. But some of the cards, because of military regulations, we couldn't mail. So we collected them. They had jingle bells on them. They don't let you do metal. So we took them to the VA hospital in East Orange, and let's just say the smiles were unbelievable. They were unbelievably beautiful, artistic cards, just lovely, and they were so moved. So all I can say that every part of the world was covered, including places we weren't even privy to. But it was a wonderful expression of appreciation to our military. So on behalf of our very grateful troops and our veterans, and certainly from myself, I just wanted to thank you from the bottom of all our hearts. And God bless you all, and God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Fennell.
Hello again, Cindy Brown from 24 Corwell Circle. I'm actually here as a member of Essex Rising, Fair and Welcoming Policies, and I'm reading a letter on behalf of our chairperson, Shannon McKinnon. So, and I've also have copies, if you could just... She couldn't be here tonight, so she asked me to read for her. Dear Board of Ed President Mordecai and board members, I am writing to urge the Board of Education to support its mission to assure the free public K-12 education of all West Orange resident children, regardless of immigration status, by passing a resolution to protect immigrant students and their families. Children must feel safe in order to learn. Families must feel safe taking their children to and from school and leaving them in the care of teachers and administrators. In the current climate of aggressive immigration enforcement, fear is pervasive and traumatic for immigrants, residents of West Orange community. I have seen firsthand, as an immigration attorney, the terror and anxiety that the Trump administration's immigration enforcement policies provoke. It is therefore essential that the school district clearly communicate to families that all children have the right to a free public education regardless of immigration status. It is imperative that the school district reaffirm that schools are safe places where federal immigration enforcement will not occur, and that our schools will not voluntarily cooperate with immigration and customs enforcement. ICE. Specific proper procedures must be put in place so that the school employees know exactly how to respond if ICE attempts to enforce federal immigration laws on school grounds. Additionally, our school district must guarantee the confidential personal information of immigrant students and their families will be protected to the fullest extent of the law. All of this should be made clear by means of Board of Education resolution. Given this climate of fear and anxiety, I am also concerned about the recent proposal to use the company VerifyResidents.com in order to discern whether enrolled students are residents of West Orange. To the extent that the board decides to use this or any other company to verify residence of students, the board should guarantee that there would be no inquiry as to the immigration status of students or their families, as it is irrelevant to the determination of residence. Further, there must be a commitment from the board that any and all information collected in the residency verification process will not be communicated to ICE. These commitments should be clearly communicated to all families. I and other community members are currently in discussions with West Orange Township officials about adopting fair and welcoming policies that would establish that local police and government agents will not use local resources to enforce federal immigration law, that the town will protect the confidential personal information of all residents regardless of immigration status, and that the township services are available to all regardless of immigration status. The administration has been receptive to these ideas, and we are hopeful that our efforts will come to fruition. But we also need immediate action from the school district in support of our children and families. I call on the West Orange Board School District to join numerous other districts in New Jersey to stand up for immigrant students and their families now. Thank you, Shannon McKeon. She is a parent of Gregory and the chairperson of Essex Rising Fair and Welcoming Committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Harry Klein. I live at 40 Oak Ridge Road. Just want to start by saying I appreciate you all hanging in there with us. It's late. We're all tired. You're all tired. But thank you for sticking in there with us. My husband and I moved to West Orange from New York City 8 years ago. We were drawn to this town because of its reputation as a diverse and progressive community with a great school system. We are thrilled that our daughter Mia is going to be starting kindergarten in the fall. In preparation for this, we've taken a recent interest in what has been going on in the school district, particularly with regards to the lack of a contract for the teachers. So from what I understand, teachers have been taking home less pay each of the last few years due to the increasing health care contributions mandated under the 2011 state law known as Chapter 78, a law that has a sunset clause now enabling this board to once again negotiate health care. During that time, while teachers have been suffering financially, our children have continued to receive a high-quality education from these dedicated professionals. Research has consistently indicated that the most important in-school factor affecting a child's educational development is teachers. My fear is that if this board does not provide meaningful financial relief for our devoted educators, that many will consider leaving the district or the profession that they love, and that morale will continue to decline and unavoidably have a trickle-down effect on our children. You, the members of the Board of Education, can solve this problem. However, it requires more than paying lip service to our teachers or simply nodding along in silence as they share their testimonials. If you truly value our children, the educators of this district, and the long-term success of our schools, then it is time for action. My daughter begins her first day of kindergarten in September, and my family starts our experience in West Orange Public Schools. It will be unacceptable for her to walk through the doors to Hazel School and have the teachers at 800 days without a contract, with blank bulletin boards and teachers wearing union shirts and settle now buttons. This is not only an economic decision, but a moral one. It is time to settle a fair contract with the West Orange Education Association and show that you stand for progressive values and the importance of public education in West Orange. A message from your website calls for us all to, quote, aim high. I ask each of you now to follow this mantra and do the right thing. Thank you.
Rachel Gordon, 8 Meeker Street. Ditto what he said. And also in terms of accountability and transparency for parents on any of the honors committee, the HAP committee, and I think there was an electives committee. I know that there was a process, but people did not know who the people were, who were on the committee, and that would have been really helpful for other parents so that they could have expressed views to those representatives who were picked by the superintendent so that people could get, a broader view. An example, I'm not that impressed that 19 out of 21 people on the committee voted for the people who, that grades shouldn't be counted, because many of those people, except for the parents, are employees of the Board of Ed. So I don't know, yes, there was an administrator who voted against, but I also feel that parents, if you're not sure and you're going by what is told to you, instead of if you were an educator and knew what could be possible in terms of grades, that might have, so if we knew who they were, that would have been helpful. So I feel hopeful that in the future, when you have future committees, you would post who those parents are so that with, hopefully, some sort of communication so that people could get to them. And my last little thing I just wanted to say is that I know for a fact that the watch list for the kids who went into honors, some of the kids, yes, were moved, but I know that there were definitely kids who came from 5th grade who had A's and who were not in a certain, in Edison, who were not in a certain team, and they did not, and none of the kids in those teams, or I can't say none, but many of the kids that I know who I'm talking about did not move. So, and were not switched, and were not on the designated watch list. So I think one should look into that for future. And I know that I had to miss the honors meeting because of the snow, and I had my own parent-teacher conferences, so I was making my voice known now. And I'm sure there will be more parents once the testing goes through and there's upset parents in about 2 months when those decisions come through. But hopefully in next year we can resolve some of those things.
Hello, Nicole Rufo for Overlook Avenue. First, Mrs. Mordecai, just so you know, I wasn't saying that you don't care about the schools when I mentioned just that if anyone comes in the classroom, like in a Gregory school, you'd feel the heat. It would just be something you remember because it's really hot. So it was mentioned that we're at a crossroads right now. And I can tell you from someone who moved from Maplewood to West Orange about 5 years ago, we actually never sold our house in Maplewood because it was a bad time in the market, so we're selling it now. We had been renting it out right now, and the market is so hot. There are like 10 houses available between $300,000 and $600,000 on the market right now in the inventory in South Orange and Maplewood. So what happens is all my friends who are real estate agents are constantly asking me, so I have somebody who's interested, they really want to be next to this train line, and they know I moved to West Orange, tell me about the schools. And I'm having a hard time right now selling the school system to them and being honest about what's happening here. So I think West Orange is a great place to live. I would love people to move here, but I think that we need to fix this problem with our teachers' contracts and with this budget, obviously, to make it so that the real estate agents in Maplewood and South Orange say, oh, yes, I want to show you houses in West Orange because I've heard the schools are great, and they are. And I also heard that there was a meeting with real estate agents, possibly with the superintendent, I think, that he mentioned that the contract was coming to a close, and that's just not what the teachers are feeling like. So I think that that's a misconception. The real estate agents might be selling houses right now, saying that it's going to be fixed and everything's fine, and I'm not really sure if that's what's going to happen immediately. On Cindy's comment about the Fair and Welcoming Committee from Essex Rising, I just wanted to share with you a couple of quotations from some people in the same kind of situation. There was a superintendent in Miami that just came out in support of protecting students in the schools from the ICE enforcement. And his quote was very powerful. It said, "On behalf of every single kid in the community, over my dead body will any federal entity enter our schools to take immigration actions against our kids." And then also Maplewood and South Orange on Monday of February 27th passed a resolution, and I have a copy for all of you that you can take home to read. This is the resolution. And that would just be something that you guys could read and maybe study off of as we create our own for our district.
Good evening. I think it's still evening. Elizabeth Redwine, 10 Cobain Terrace, and I want to also thank everyone for staying late. I do think we need to think about different ways of structuring these evenings so that we all don't end up having to be here so late. I know in Jersey City recently they made a change so that the agenda items and the public comment, that those two comments were combined, and it's really helped getting the public involved in positive ways. So that would just be something I suggest. I also just want to come to the defense of my friend, neighbor, and fellow class mom, Nicole Rufo, that what I heard her say was just expressing surprise that you all weren't aware of the heat in the classrooms, because if you're class parents or if you've visited the classrooms, it's immediately apparent. So that's, I think, all that she was saying. I also just want to affirm, as Mia's dad pointed out, I'm sorry, I'm remembering you as Mia's dad, and forgetting your first name for a minute in my nervousness, but that the first reason to come to a fair contract with our teachers is obviously a moral one. A second and very important reason, especially as we're talking about budgets, is, as Nicole says, to make West Orange a town that people want to move to. Many of us moved here from Brooklyn for the school system way back when there was a contract and when there, frankly, was a superintendent known for working with the teachers. I would love to see that happen now. I am in a similar position where I'm on a listserv from Brooklyn to New Jersey. It's just an email listserv that's been pretty active. Those of us in West Orange are having a hard time because we want to promote our town. We love our town. We want to see our property values go up. We love our schools. But people are concerned about, 600 days, hopefully not in September, 800 days of not having a fair contract for the teachers we love. And I just have to say, I was in a meeting with a teacher yesterday because my son's having a hard time getting his math homework in, making me insane. She said, "Don't get a tutor. I'll just help him after school a little bit." And this is a teacher with a very young child who's willing to stay after and just help out. So, I really thought to myself, this is a woman working without a contract, willing to stay after to help my son, who's a pain. And I love him, but, he's in 7th grade and he's not getting his homework in. I'm ready to tear my hair out. And she's willing to help out. And I just hope that you can have the respect for that and work with these teachers better. And I know that you can, and I hope that I see that. I feel like I'm forgetting something really important, which is I'm also a member of Essex Rising. I just want to get the language right because I'm not a lawyer. But I did want to come up and echo what Cindy and Nicole had said about the importance. We live in a new time. Many of us are politically awake right now after the election. But whatever your political beliefs or party, I think we can all agree that having ICE enforcers coming into the schools is not something we want to see in West Orange. And it is something that members of the administration have threatened. And I can cite those, but I won't spend that time right now. But I would like to echo Cindy. Oh, I know I'm out of time. And just really quickly say that if we could just make this so that there were proper procedures in place so that school employees knew how to respond if ICE attempted to come in, and to guarantee confidential personal information. And that same 7th grade son I have said today that he's scared for his friends who are not from this country. And so there's an element of fear that's providing the same kind of anxiety that some of you had spoken about, that our kids go through, that Mr. Robinson had mentioned. That is worse now, even for a kid who was born in this country, because they're concerned about their friends. So I think that kind of a statement would really help those students.
Hi, my name is Susan Pasquale. I live at 22 Overlook Avenue. I'm here tonight not only as a mother, a paying taxpayer, and a homeowner. I just want to say that the contract with the teachers. I've been living in West Orange for 45 years. I have 3 children. 1 I have at Edison, 2 at Gregory. I'm on the class parent at Gregory, and I'm on the PTA at Edison. And I just, it's not, I can't even express my feelings for the teachers. It's a disgrace. I don't know. They're not respected. I know you guys are working on it. We just need to do a little bit more. I mean, like they're saying, you can't even tell people to come live here because of the schools. That's why they come here. They come for the schools. They don't, they want to make sure that everything is okay. The second thing I have is, for the respect of the hardworking teachers and parents, we ask that you consider moving the public comments earlier in the board meeting. Having a separate town hall evening to even hear our concerns for the lack of fair contract. This is a crisis, and all you need to do is hear our voices. I'm a parent at Gregory, and like I said, before the meeting, I talked to Mr. Rutsky, and I asked if the parents could talk prior. He said that we had to go to the agenda. I think it's good if the schools, maybe Gregory, or we can get together where there just can be conversation. That's all we're asking for. Time, answers, and conversations where we don't have to wait till 12 o'clock at night to talk to you. That's all we're asking for. Thank you.
I'm George Brown. I live at 34 Ridgeway Avenue. I'm a longtime West Orange resident, a retired educator with a specialty in immigration history. As the grandparent of a West Orange Middle School student and a volunteer at Edison Middle School, I am very aware of the great diversity of our student body and our township. I believe it is critically important that we affirm and continue our policies supporting the rights of every resident and every child to learn and live freely in our community. Therefore, I stand with other concerned citizens to encourage the Board of Education to publicly confirm our educational commitment to support and protect our children and their parents from unlawful inquiries and interference in their access to public education. I urge the board to act in concert with our mayor, town council, and our law enforcement agencies to affirm and reassure all our residents that we will provide a welcoming and safe environment in our town, as so many other communities around us are doing. Thank you.
Good evening. Tony Fields at Brookside Road. As I promised to you on several different occasions, I'm here to give you a report on some of the successes and ills of the track and field team at West Orange. For starters, I would like to congratulate Makola Akinsola for her outstanding performance. She's a senior this year. She's probably the far most successful athlete as a senior female on the team this year. She made it from sectionals through states and successfully accomplished meet champions. I just wanted to share with you that we have tried to the best of our abilities, working with a few parents, my wife and myself, to pursue nationals, and that's something that you've heard me talk about before. It has been a very big struggle. We have approximately 1 year ago approached the coaching staff about nationals, and now I stand before you again. I'm no further ahead as far as nationals is concerned as I was before. I've shared various different dialogues with you as well as Mr. Rusty as far as what I am trying to do to help the team to accomplish the exposure for nationals. I want to thank Mr. Calavano for your help because you have been very instrumental in giving us at least some insight about the direction we're going. We are now at the point where we're trying to fundraise for nationals. We have an aggressive agenda in terms of the estimate of kids that we're projecting could go. It could be higher, it could be lower, I'm not really sure. But where most schools in the country has started fundraising back in August, we're literally just starting our second fundraising event now. And the fact of the matter is the fundraising events that we're actually trying to pursue haven't even been approved by the board for the Booster Club. So I just find it disturbing that we're still struggling with this matter. As far as I'm concerned, I'm going to continue to advocate for the kids because that is exactly what I've committed myself to do. But it has been a very big struggle, and I'm just going to continue to keep providing you with. I'm going to continue to keep providing you with updates on what we are doing. Thank you.
Jennifer Beezer, 82 Lawrence Avenue. There's so much going on tonight, it's hard to know where to start. I feel like I can't stand here and not thank you all for the very, very hard work and the very, very difficult job that you have in running our schools with both dealing with the teacher's contract and with the budget. And in the last several meetings that I've attended, there has been some animosity in the air sometimes, back and forth this way, and I hope that it seems like that is winding down, and I hope that we're moving into a new, more constructive phase to move on from where we've been. I really hope to hear very soon that the teacher's contract has been resolved in a way that's satisfactory to them. I think it's essential, especially in the situation we're in with what's happening at the federal and state level, that we have our teachers able to fully focus on their job here, educating our children and being the fine professionals that they are. I also wanted to support the policy that the members of Essex Rising had recommended to support students who are here. While it is, I know, the state of the law that we're required to educate students regardless of their immigration status, making a policy that reinforces that and provides specific guidance to school personnel if there is any issue with ICE enforcement or any question they may have, makes a public statement to the community at large, to the students and families involved, and can only be helpful to school personnel. Touching back on the honors matter, as was raised earlier, the student watch list, I think the issue is that because of the way Edison divided up the students this year, the reality was that only students who were on the team that included the honors students were really on the watch list, and other students, it would have been too disruptive to move them, and they weren't moved. And looking ahead, beyond the honors, I hope this is something that we can continue to revisit. I don't feel like it was meaningfully revisited this year with a committee of people who met. It couldn't have been more than once or twice, and this was sort of rushed out the door, and parents had a few days to return the permission slip. But looking ahead to high school and the fantastic schools that our students are getting into now, and the more inclusive honors program, as I understand it, that has operated at the high school, I worry about what happens if we're narrowing the pipeline. Are students going to have the opportunities that they have? Because in high school, your grade point average is affected by whether you're in an honors class or not an honors class. And so will University of Chicago be an option for a student whose grade point average would be different because they were excluded from an honors program? When my son was, I'm sorry, I know I'm out of time, but when my son, who's in 10th grade now, left 8th grade, at the meeting at 8th grade, and parents asked about this, it was asked how many students are in, what's the percentage? And the guidance counselor there didn't know exactly, but her guess was about 40% in honors. We have about 10% at middle school. So what's the difference? I don't know what's the right exact number, but I haven't heard from parents or students or teachers that the high school system is not working. And if you look at what's happening with our students now and where they're going on to college, it looks to me like it is working. So that's, I have a 6th grader now. I'm looking at how this is going to affect her, and I'm concerned. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nicole Davis. I live at 50 Forest Hill Road. I'm new to West Orange as of Thanksgiving of last year, so I have a daughter who's in kindergarten at Hazel. I'm also a clinical social worker with a specialty in LGBT adolescents and adults, and especially around gender identity. So I want to thank you for the gender identity and expression policies. And I just took a look at them and think that they're mostly really great. I do want to say that I really strongly encourage you to consider doing district-wide training for all faculty and staff around this and not do it piecemeal, school by school. I've worked with other school district and individual schools, and I think especially a district like this, you get into trouble when it's just sort of piece by piece and up to principals to kind of figure out, you know, in a sort of crisis situation, oh, we have a kid now who's transitioning, what do we do? So I think getting ahead of that and really doing some preemptive training would serve everybody really well. And just as I was reading this, I also just want to say in terms of the definitions, I actually encourage you to look back. There's a little bit confusion around gender and sex. For example, regardless of the gender they were assigned at birth, it's actually the sex they were assigned at birth, not the gender assigned. So just to pay close attention to that, because those are the things that actually can get really important in terms of especially parents and teachers understanding what the differences are between sex and gender and sexual orientation. So thank you.
Hello again. Hi again, Sarah During. I promised my neighbor that I would read something from her. She is also a parent at Hazel, a fellow third grade parent at Hazel. And she is a teacher, so she couldn't be there tonight because she has to get up very early in the morning. This is her son's 4th year at Hazel. And she says, every single teacher he's had has been caring, dedicated, professional, and kind. I live a few blocks away from the school and often see teachers arriving early and leaving late, well beyond the hours they are contracted to be in the building. Also, when I've contacted his teachers via email, I've received replies often within the day, on weeknights and weekends. Not boilerplate replies, but thoughtful, constructive replies. What I'm saying is these teachers go above and beyond. They put their all into what they do. Their day doesn't begin and end with the bell. The subject matter, the classroom dramas, the lives of their students, many of whom spend more time with their teachers than their parents, they all become an integral part of their lives. It's time they get a fair contract. It's what's decent and just. Thank you. And that's from Lauren Weber on Birch Street, she told me to say. And it's also worth mentioning that another one of my neighbors, who is a fellow Hazel parent as well, started a petition, and she started it 11 hours ago and already has 77 signatures, you know, for a fair contract for the teachers. So I think that's worth mentioning. And I know you guys are working as hard as you can on it, and I just urge you to work even harder. Thank you.
Hi, Tony Edelstein, 50 Davy Drive. I also want to commend the board for formulating a policy addressing gender identity and expression. I also want to be perhaps the 5th or 6th person to support the idea of our school district having a policy regarding protecting immigrant students. And I did email to all the board members and to Mr. Rutsky last week that there is a immigrant rights program that's being conducted at the West Orange Public Library a week from tonight with attorneys and other people who can advise families in this very perilous time about things as extreme as preparing guardianship and things like that if, God forbid, they were deported, separated from their family. And I do think that we should, as a school district, disseminate that information to our parents as widely as we can to let them know, because I think certainly our schools are sort of a locus for where information can be disseminated to parents, a central location. So I'd urge us to explore all the ways we can get that out quickly to our parents. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for staying late and for your comments and questions. First of all, we have to abide by the federal and state law as regards to immigration status and ICE. I guess this question is for Mr. Rutsky. Yes, Mr. Rutsky, please, if there's some kind of a guidance for personnel to follow. That was a
Sure.
general question.
Yeah, the verified residents, just so everybody understands, that we're not allowed to provide any information to anybody. There is only a handful of individuals that see the information and have access to that information. Somebody could not walk in, no matter what the status is, whether it's ISIS or somebody else, and say that we want this information on this person. We are not permitted to provide that to them, and nor would we ever do that. You know, we've had conversations with our attorney in what is the status of our role if that would happen. And he's very clear, everybody else is very clear about it. You cannot provide any information whatsoever. And when we do registrations, I know many of you don't have to have this issue because you live in town, but when you're not domiciled in town, that's when we have to go after the parents about not living in town. And that information is brought to us in a lot of different ways, but one of them is not looking at the immigration status of students and or adults. It's that we know that they're coming out of another community, and our residency officers go and investigate and evaluate where they're coming from, and then there's a process that we notify them. We don't believe they're living in town. They come in, they have to have a board hearing with the board members, myself, Mr. Calavano, and then they have the right to appeal that. They have a 21-day right to do that. And if they are here illegally, we may go after tuition with them and so on and so forth. There's a whole process that you have to go through, but never, ever is there a time where we're concerned about their immigration status. This is about, are they domiciled in West Orange or not? So I just want everybody to understand that that's a really important piece. Kind of working our way up. Let's see here. Mr. Dorian, we know the Hazel teachers are absolutely superb. Ms. Davis, thank you. What we're doing in the interim is those individuals who are kind of the key contact. We're training all of those individuals, making sure the principals, assistant principals, supervisors, counselors, all those individuals who kind of oversee the buildings, making sure that they're aware, and then we will put in training for all of the teachers and others that need to be trained. So we want to make sure that we have this right and that everybody understands what their role is and what is legally allowed and not as far as the definitions. We appreciate that clarification on the definition. Ms. Beiser, I just want to clarify a couple things. 10% at the middle school is a very low number. The numbers are much higher than 10% of the kids being in the middle school. And you know, students who went into Edison and whatever the dividing list was. I know there were students from the watch list that went into Edison, but what that tells me is, you know, the idea of you have the 5th grade teacher, but you also have the 6th grade teacher thinking maybe this child's not ready for an honors course. And so it's not a knock on the child, it's just that you have the teacher who knows that subject really well, and if he or she did think the child should be in the honors, obviously that process would have taken place and certainly would have been done. But as far as the meaningful meetings, there were 4 of them, and the idea that I was not attending one of them, but that's okay because all I did was facilitate the process. The principals did what they needed to do as far as the teachers talking, and it was really the teachers' voices that carried a lot of the weight when it came to that committee. They are living in that classroom, that honors classroom, every single day. They know exactly what's happening, what's not happening, and when they started to talk, all of us started to listen very carefully. And as far as the permission, there were weeks provided for individuals to go ahead and sign up, and it was a very simple, less than a 5-minute process to sign up to be part of it. The committee was clearly formed with one reason and one purpose, and that was to have representation across the elementary and middle schools. We had parents who had children in elementary, also in Edison, and possibly the 2 middle schools. So those are meaningful because they're able to see the transition all the way up through and then to high school. We had a really wonderful parent from high school and only high school because of that process of moving from middle school, 8th grade into the high school. But, you know, we've talked a lot about the teacher contract, and again, you know, the hard part about the teacher contract is that's the business side of education, and it's hard. And we want to get a contract completed with the teachers. And I know the board members work very hard on this. Mr. Schwarzbaum, Ms. Lab, are that negotiating team. But, you know, the other board members take this very seriously. As I said, there's two things that are vitally important right now in the district, and one of them is the budget, but the other one, and more importantly, is the contract. We want to get it done. We got the other three done. We want to get this one done, and we certainly want to move forward. Mr. Fields, I know that last week there's a couple of fundraisers that came to Miss Hughes, and she showed them to me, and I said they were fine. I read them, and they were fine. I'm not aware of any others, but if there are, let us know tomorrow, and we'll take any. As soon as they come in, Miss Hughes is really good about having them available for me to look at, and I try to approve them within that same day. So if we're missing something that you haven't returned, just let us know. We'll take a look at those immediately. Again, the immigration obviously is very, very important. You know, the town hall meeting, Ms. Pasquale, I have no problem. We talked about that before we walked in. You know, the fair contract, looking at different things. A lot of that was, you know, what you were trying to express, and again, we don't disagree with any of that. We understand that. As far as Ms. Gordon, as far as the accountability and transparency, you know, there were plenty of parents who asked and emailed, and again, Ms. Hughes would say to them, all you have to do is share your information about honors with the principal, and each meeting the principal would bring that information, whatever their concern was or question or something they wanted to discuss. The principals would bring that, and they would have that opportunity to talk about it during the committee. And if we need to make that process a little cleaner, we certainly will do that. But let's see, Mr. Klein, yeah, the Chapter 78 is very challenging. You know, you heard tonight with the, you know, the budget about how much of that money goes towards health benefits, and every year how those health benefits increase. It's a very big challenge for the board to respect the budget process and to deal with those rising costs when it comes to that. But it's something that we're trying to work through with a different kind of option with the health plan, so we can definitely look at that. But again, with the Verify resident, I don't want anybody to be worried about the information is getting out to anybody. It's not allowed to go to anybody, and nor will we ever release that. And the Verify residence is only to determine that we may think individuals aren't living in West Orange. It has nothing to do with the immigration status. Ms. Mordecai.
Yes, just one comment I don't think you responded to. A couple people mentioned that if we could restructure the board meeting so that the comments are not so late. Actually, tonight's agenda, we had 3 separate comments. We had the comments right after the budget process so that you could comment specifically on the budget, and then for questions on the agenda. And at the end of the agenda is for comments on things that are not specific to the agenda. So that's why we have 3 separate comments. So I don't know if that explains it, if that's clear. But
that's not the issue.
This is not a dialogue, but I understand. The agenda is really long, and a lot of times we're here till 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, depending on how many people have comments. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Well, public comment is for the end of the meeting. My colleagues and I can discuss that some more, but that's how we restructured the agenda, so that there are comments in the beginning and at the end. So if your comments are on agenda items, they will be at the beginning. If it's not an agenda item, it's at the end. But thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for. Well, the board generally doesn't have dialogue with teachers, because that would be micromanaging. With teachers, they dialogue with their union representative, and then we talk to the union rep. That's how we communicate. Okay, we're not going to do back and forth tonight, but we will discuss it, and we will talk about whether or not we want to restructure the
Yeah.
agenda. And one last thing, I forgot to announce, our next board meeting is April 17th, so we'll see you then. But we also have the board public budget hearing in 2 days, March 22nd at Liberty Middle School. Have a good night. Get home safe.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Thank you.
Second.
Have a good night. Get home safe.